So it's coming back at 3 p.m., and that is about the time that really the brunt of Irma is going to start approaching, and the storm surge is a great threat, because as those bands go out, it takes the water out, and then it brings it back in. Storm surge is different than flooding. Storm surge happens first, flooding happens later. The folks here know that from Hurricane Wilma that pounded this area and created a lot of flooding in 2005, and that is exactly what happened. That ocean that is still just rough and angry back there is about to come all the way through our live shot, where we will obviously be moving well before that happens. In fact, I believe we may have this. Earlier this morning, David Freilich, the communications director for Collier County, talked about a real threat, which is that storm surge in addition to the wind. Take a listen.
We had gone through and made sure that all of our storm drains and everything that we can get out of the way to sort of get this water that's going to come in is gone through here, and made sure that all of our storm drains and
they just had about 2 weeks ago some flooding from just rain here. And rainfall is an issue because in Naples, at least, they've had a lot of rainfall. They're expecting at least 14, 15 or more inches, according to local meteorologists here, on top of the storm surge. So it's an issue because flooding and power outages, you know, it's pretty much empty here as they wait for everything. And as the sheriff was saying last time, you know, don't hunker down. But I got an email just a few minutes ago from the mayor here at Billboard 90. He says he's hunkering down, and pretty much it's too late. Officials saying that of the 27 shelters here in Naples, they're all full. So you need to seek high ground, stay away from windows, and hunker down in this case if you decide to stay along Naples, along the coast. Guys.
Yeah, this thing is very real. Rick Jenkins, thank you so much. We'll check back in with you shortly.
Absolutely. But first, we go to this Fox News alert at 7 o'clock Eastern time here on the East Coast. Hurricane Irma hammering South Florida right now, and we're just moments away from it making landfall, heading straight up the Gulf Coast of that state.
Hundreds of thousands of people without power as the entire state braces for the worst. The storm has already killed at least 25 people in the Caribbean. The time now for evacuation is pretty much over.
Do not put yourself or your family's life at risk. We have been very...
Top 130 miles per hour with life-threatening storm surges. They are expected to reach 15 feet in some places in that state, while millions have made their way out of the state. Others are now forced to stay behind. We've got team coverage this morning. We go right now to Phil Keating, who is in Miami. First for us, Phil, what are conditions looking like right now?
Well, the bands continue to come, they go, they come, they go, but they're whipping winds and driving rain. It was a howling night overnight in Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach counties as those outer bands of this hurricane, a monster Cat 4, 130 miles an hour. In fact, the eye wall of Irma is just about to slam into Key West or the lower Keys, and sometime this hour is going to be devastating without a doubt. There are no emergency services in all of the Florida Keys for now the second straight day. And of course, once it gets through the Keys, it's marching northbound up to Marco Island, Naples, Sarasota, Tampa Bay. So this is going to be a long day, if not 2 or 3 days of driving, pounding rain and heavy winds causing a lot of damage. About 6 million Floridians are directly affected by this. There are more than 77,000 people in shelters all around the state. And power outages is a major concern. They are growing by the hour because we saw at least 4 or 5 transponders blow up. The electric blue light in the sky, and I know my house lost power already. All of the Keys pretty much have no power as well, so that's going to be a major problem. Duke Energy, one of the utilities for Florida, predicts that this could affect 6 million people without electricity for at least days. Back to you.
That's the thing. This storm is not going to just pass through and go away, and all of a sudden the sun comes out and everything's, you know, roses. There's going to be extreme amounts of damage, power out for weeks probably for a lot of these people.
Yep.
It's like a war zone at the hurricane.
You're right. Power trucks, there were some images, in fact, our own Jillian Mealy posted them on social media of power trucks heading down in that direction. Because it's not just going to be power lines, as you said, John. It's transformers, it's power stations, and that's why it leads to... Hopefully folks have been preparing sufficiently, and there are a lot of gritty folks in Florida. There can be some tough times ahead.
Absolutely. Let's bring now in Jeff Locke in Punta Gorda, is north of Naples, just south of Tampa, I believe. Jeff, what is it like where you are? You guys are expected to be hit quite hard as the day goes on.
Absolutely, up through the Charlotte Harbor. And, you know, you don't have to tell people in Punta Gorda to evacuate. They've been through this big time. Look at this. This is the only parking garage, public parking garage in Punta Gorda. And there is not a space left. Everyone has put their cars in here because they lost them in Hurricane Charlie. They lost Hurricane Charlie. This really hit back in 2004, Hurricane Charlie. And it is a lesson for all of us. And maybe we have some pictures of the devastation of that Cat 4 hurricane that was not supposed to come to Punta Gorda. It was supposed to go to the north, and it was supposed to be much weaker, maybe Cat 2 going into Tampa. Well, what happened was it took an unexpected turn, came through here, people were unprepared, people were in mobile homes, left in their homes, and this town was decimated. It has largely been rebuilt. As perhaps we come back live here, maybe you can see there's the postal garage over there, vehicles parked, nobody delivering mail. It won't go through today. Of course, it's Sunday anyway, I suppose, but there you go. And this is surrounded by water, so subject to tremendous storm surge, which is why we have this parking garage filled with cars. People got smart, and that's what they're doing. There is not a whole lot of people left in Punta Gorda. If you've been through a Cat 4 storm, you generally decide not to stick it out again. It was a terrible tragedy in 2004. At the time, the second most costly hurricane in U.S. history, $16 billion of damage. It's still in the top 10 13 years later. Parking garage packed, always a good place to go, by the way, in a hurricane, because it's fairly solid. They build it to hold a lot of cars. It generally withstands the storm. After that, however, with no power, water, or anything else, well, you might be sorry you stayed. That's the latest from here.
And frequently no gas as well, Jeff, because the gas stations need power to run their pumps, and a lot of them don't have generators. So those cars...
That's exactly right. You're going to be standing here and sitting here for a long period of time, I tell you, if you decided to stay.
Yeah.
All right.
Repositioned on high ground, which is where you want to be on that side, certainly on the Gulf Coast.
Jeff, thanks so much. All right, Rick Bracknew's been tracking this for us, and the hardest job that you guys have as meteorologists is tracking exactly where that eye is going to go, because it's so hard to predict.
Well, it is. Actually, the hardest part is messaging. Is how do we get the right message out? You know, people want to focus on that exact center of it. We want to, because that has big implications, but that we still have to convey the message that the impacts are widespread. But yes, also it is very difficult to say exactly where that center goes. We knew all along, we've been saying really since last week, it was going to be hard to say exactly where the center would go on this storm until yesterday when it would make that northward turn. Last night I had people messaging me saying, I don't believe it's going to make this northward turn. I'm like, yes, trust me, it's going to make this northward turn. But where exactly does that happen? Well, let me tell you, right now it happened, and the latest image right here, we've got this going right over the Keys right now. So the worst of the conditions, 130 miles. So that we also can't get the pictures to you. A lot of our stations are not down, so we can't get some of that stuff to you. But it's been making these wobbles, as I was saying. Looks like Key West is going to be on the left side of it, so you'll have the winds coming from the north, Marathon Key on the other side, so you have the winds coming from the south. I will tell you there is a ton of wave energy that is being spread up here from the Keys in towards the Miami area. They're going to see a lot of this energy pull up here over the next couple of hours, so tons still to go right there. And this is a Cat 4. So, guys, we've had 10 Cat 4 hurricanes hit Florida in the last 150 years, 2 Cat 5s. So this is a really big deal hitting Florida, and it's a storm that's been strong for a long time, so it's accumulated a lot of energy. It's going to continue to pull over the water. In about 12 to 18 hours, there will be some wind shear that starts to attack the storm a little bit and break it down, and that's great news, but we have a long ways to go, and a lot of the coastal areas here that are going to deal with very kind of microclimate issues with the direction of the wind, the direction of the bays, where the rivers and inlets go there, and elevation. So some people are going to get storm surge at different times. It's not all going to be one specific thing, because this storm is riding up along the coast. If it were heading straight into the coast, it would be a very much easier forecast. But because of all of these inlets and because of it riding up the coast, it's a much more difficult thing to see exactly where the storm surge is going to be the worst. I will tell you also, because it is not just a single point, we will feel the hurricane force winds all the way up the coast. And because of this rotation, all of the winds on the east coast of Florida are still coming onshore. So we have storm surge warnings up and down the Florida east coast, and watches and some warnings even across parts of Georgia and South Carolina. So a lot of energy coming in here all the way up towards the Carolinas, and eventually a lot of wind and rain getting in towards Georgia and Alabama. We're going to see power outages probably up towards central Georgia from this, with winds that are going to be gusting to hurricane force. That will topple a lot of trees, cause power outages far inland here. That's tomorrow night.
How important is it not to downplay this storm? Because you have a lot of people, whenever a storm hits, oh, it's not going to be as bad as you actually think.
People have ridden out storms, you know, that Cat 1, Cat 2 thing, and it wasn't that bad, or they've seen like it make a last minute diversion. And there will be some spots here that didn't get that band, that wasn't as bad, but that doesn't mean anything. We won't know what those spots are for a while, and let me just tell you, everybody here is going to be getting hurricane force winds at some point.
And because it's marching up the west coast, north of the storm, it's actually pulling water away from the beach, right? So once the storm passes, that's when the storm surge is going to come in, and that's really going to catch a lot of people.
Yeah, which is kind of the opposite of what we think when a storm comes straight into something. You get the storm surge first. This is going to be different. And at a place like Tampa Bay, all that water's in there. It moves from one side of the bay back to the other side, like sloshing in a bathtub.
Water's got to go somewhere.
Yeah,
thanks a lot. You bet. Appreciate your time. All right. Well, we're going to have the governor of Florida on in just moments here on the program on Fox and Friends. He's going to give us an update live of what's happening across his state. As we see that right now, Hurricane Irma has made landfall in the Florida Keys. Right now, though, we're going to go to Brian Yanis, who is in Miami Beach. Some serious sustained winds we saw earlier in the program. They are keeping up. Brian, how you doing?
We're doing all right. Yeah, these are the most serious winds that we've seen, and they continue to, they're staying. That's what makes them sustained. You know, when we first got here, I would say the winds would be around 20, 30 miles an hour. And then when we got on air with you guys around 6 o'clock or 6:30 especially, it's just stayed this way. Really, truly just showing just how powerful this storm is. The eye may be 130 miles southwest of Miami from here, but we're feeling hurricane force type sustained winds here, at least, knocking us over. So, I'm just feeling for our friends in Key West down there who are going through just an incredible pounding right now, because we're so far away from Key West and yet feeling so much of this storm, and that's what's going to happen as it continues to move up. I'll just show you a shot now. Guy, if you can just show the rest of this is downtown Miami. This is Biscayne Boulevard. You see the flooding that we had talked about before. It actually is moving a little further up. We're seeing more flooding over here, and I think we're starting to see more water being pulled in here by Biscayne Bay, at least blown in, because it's been really coming from the bay. Miami here in downtown is surrounded by that bay, and we've been seeing the water just kind of spraying in a lot more than when we first got here. The Metro mover there, we've been seeing that all day. Pieces have been falling. We saw a stop sign fall, and this isn't just here in downtown Miami. Reports just up and down the southeast part here in South Florida, along Hollandale Beach and Fort Lauderdale Beach and Hollywood and Miami Beach, of this type of wind and rain, down trees, down signs, people, more and more people continuously losing power. So, and again, you can't stress it enough, these conditions are going to be like this for a long time. When I was in Hurricane Wilma back in 2005, and I was with my family, we lost power. We were surprised by how long we were without power, and it really was, the storm was a Category 3, but it just stayed, you know, and kind of hit us twice. And that matters, how long these winds and rain are in place. And with these kinds of conditions, the gusts, I'm only standing because we are protected on both sides, but these gusts are just pulling in, and the trees, and you can just see it. I mean, it's remarkable, really, here in downtown Miami. And again, I think there was a little bit of people maybe letting their guard down a little bit as this storm was tracking west or whatever what it was doing. But no, this is exactly what Rick and Janice and all of them have been saying. It is one of the most powerful storms that's ever hit Florida. And no matter how far away you are, you're going to feel it just like this here in downtown Miami. Guys.
Hey, Brian, Rick just kind of walked us through storm surge and why that could still be relevant on your side, on the East Coast side of Florida. Where you're standing right now, will that area specifically be susceptible to storm surge? How far are they saying it may go in?
We're watching. I can't give you the latest forecast because I haven't seen it in terms of storm surge. But initially, they were talking upwards of 5, 6 feet. And And frankly, you know, when you look at the forecast, they're saying 3 to 6 feet. And we've been watching Biscayne Bay here to see how much of this flooding is actually from the storm surge. This is a mandatory evacuated area. This all of downtown because they expected a storm surge to come in here and completely inundate this road. So we've been keeping an eye on it. We're at a high, we have a high place. We have a bailout plan. But right now, what we've been seeing is more and more of that water, I think, being blown in from Biscayne Bay, which is no more than 500 feet away from us on either side. And so, you know, we know that there are boats tied up on the other side of these trees, but closer to the American Airlines Arena, which you can no longer see because of the rain. They were tied up, and I know they've been rocking because that wind has been coming from that side, from the Miami Beach side over there, and also from the Port of Miami, just pushing this way. So, I mean, once this stops, we got to go check out those boats because they've been really gusting those winds from exactly that area. But again, we're keeping an eye on the storm surge, and really remember the warnings were up and down US 1, which is a state highway that came down. That's why they evacuated so many people. Everybody east of US 1, just so many homes. Talking about a storm surge that could come in miles, you know. So that is why so many people left, and rightly so, because once that storm surge comes in, it is the #1 killer. And we're not just talking about 3 or 4 feet from the sea level. It's 3 or 4 feet from you standing on ground, and in some cases more, 5 to 10 feet. And that is why it is so important that people heeded those evacuation orders, because again, they were saying that on Miami Beach. They were talking about Miami Beach being inundated. That is why the curfew went in place. And they said, please, please leave Miami Beach because we will not be able to get to you until this storm dies out. And it's not dying out anytime soon. In terms of 20 to 24 hours, that is just a really dangerous situation. And we've been in a hotel with that had a plan actually to move their guests down to the 3rd floor conference room when winds got this level. So we are sure that those people are now in the conference room, no doubt, if they heeded the warnings as to what the hotel was going to do in that conference room right now, because it was 41 stories tall, and we've got cranes all around downtown, 25 cranes. They can take 145-mile-an-hour winds, and so, but still, it's a scary situation when you see arms that are supposed to move in the wind. It's still scary to see that. And, you know, it's a dangerous situation with all these high rises that are here. Yeah, guys.
We want to make sure you stay safe out there. We're going to bring you right back after this. We want to get to, though, the mayor of Tampa, Bob Buckhorn, who is going to be in the heart of the storm in a matter of hours. Mayor, great to have you on. Our thoughts are with you today and the days to come. You were just listening to Brian there about the surges, and in many cases, we're talking about, you know, 6 to 10 to 15 feet that are higher than people's homes in your area. What is your biggest concern this morning?
Well, that is exactly right. I think we will survive and sustain through the winds and the rain. We're used to that rain, although the ground is saturated here. But it's that storm surge that has us the most concerned. I mean, by way of example, I live in one of those areas. I will be affected by that. My family has evacuated, as have many of the people who live in that level A flood zone. You know, this is a big storm. And although we haven't been hit in over 90 years, we have trained for years to be ready for this day. Like Bruce Springsteen said, there is no retreat. And there is no surrender at this point. We're going in after it. We're going hard.
Well, no, there were a lot of people who thought this storm wasn't going to come in on your side of the state, and may have stayed behind when they should have evacuated. Are you aware of a lot of people in that position, or do you think most people did get out?
Well, I know a lot of people got out. I mean, hundreds of thousands of people have gotten out, but you're absolutely right. This was a storm that was projected to hit the East Coast. I mean, we were ready to go help our friends on the East Coast. Now we find our focus, you know, on what is about to occur to us. We are about to get punched right in the face. There will be people that will try to hunker down. There always are. I think a lot of people over the last 24 hours have realized how serious this is and how Tampa Bay is potentially poised to be the recipient of a direct hit, something we haven't had in 90 years. So as I drive through the city, I see houses that are boarded up. I see streets that are empty. Downtown is completely empty. So I'm hopeful and prayerful that most people have gotten to a place where they're on high ground. And here's what people need to know if they haven't gotten out yet. You don't have to go to Georgia. All you have to do is go to a different flood zone. It could be up the street, but you just need to get to higher ground, find someplace you can stay, Shelters are still open, although that is sporadic. Find a friend and just hunker down. And then when this is over, we will be there. But more importantly, I need you to be there for our friends and neighbors.
Give us a sense of Tampa General Hospital. It's located in Davis Island. It's one of the biggest hospitals in the area. We're talking about many of the elderly that weren't able to get out of their homes. You just think about women that are very pregnant, people that are going to need assistance during when the storm hits and after that. Is the hospital open, and what preparations are being done to help people?
Well, the hospital is open, and coincidentally, my wife is an OB/GYN who works there. That hospital wisely, a decade ago, really hardened its target. It moved all of the critical infrastructure up above, new windows, basically a new structure that will allow it to continue to operate in this situation. So they are open. It is a world-class level 1 trauma unit. I need them to be functioning. Patients are getting great care there now. They will continue to get great care during the storm. Obviously, if you had to do it all over again, you wouldn't build a hospital on an island. But that was done in the 1920s, so there's nothing we can do to undo that. But they are as ready as anybody in the country for what about their face.
If people are in danger, if they need to get to that hospital, what is your advice to them this morning? Who should they call? What should they do?
Well, my advice is if you have to go now. There is a bridge that leads to that hospital. The bridge is currently open. I can't tell you that the bridge will remain open during this storm. I can't tell you what the impacts of the surge will be on the bridge. So if you're facing a critical need, you need to go now, just like you need to evacuate level 8 flood zone if you can get away.
Mr. Mayor, you mentioned being punched in the face, and yesterday you had a quote. You said it's a famous Mike Tyson quote: everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. You're anticipating so many different punches or jabs. What is the most likely scenario, and what is your worst case scenario?
You know, whoever thought we'd be quoting Mike Tyson? You know, the most likely scenario is, I think, a heavy wind occurrence, a lot of rain, 10 to 11 inches. I think a storm surge of 5 to 8 feet. What will be critical for us is whether we stay on the good side of the storm or on the bad side of the storm, and that's all a function of where the storm moves. If we're on the good side of the storm, we're in much better shape than if we were on the bad side. The good side will push a lot of water into Tampa Bay. Unfortunately, it will coincide with high tide here, which will be tomorrow morning from about 6 to 11. So we will get more water than we normally would. That's what will contribute to the level of the surge. That's what I hope happens. If we're on the bad side, I hope everyone who's going to church this morning who doesn't live in Florida says a prayer for us.
Yeah, Mayor Buckhorn, thank you so much for being with us. Our thoughts and our prayers are with you in the coming days and weeks to come. Thank you so much.
Florida Governor Rick Scott has done an amazing job preparing his state for what is to come, and it is starting to hit Florida right now. Governor Scott, tell us about, give us your assessment of how things have gone to this point.
Sure, I just have a couple of minutes. As you know, our state's getting hit right now. I talked to a friend in Key West right now. They're in the middle of getting hit. Of course, they're worried about the storm surge. It's going to hit my hometown in Naples, Florida, with 10 to 15 feet of storm surge. That's above ground level. It's going to go up the coast and hit all along the west coast with storm surge, which is my real concern. The wind, we've done before, and it's going to be really bad. We're going to lose power. We're going to lose roofs. We're going to have a lot of problems. But this storm surge is absolutely deadly. We've prepared, but there's never enough. I can just tell everybody in Florida, we're going to do everything we can to keep you safe. My job is to help protect every Floridian. We'll not spare us an expense to keep you safe.
Any concerns about shelters? We've heard a couple of reports of shelters being full in some areas. Are there contingency plans for folks that have maybe on the Gulf Coast and want to make a last-minute move?
It's tough now. The winds are coming in. We have over 400 shelters open now. We worked all night making sure they had food and water. We've opened a lot of shelters in the last 24 hours because the track kept going a little bit west. So I think right now it's going to be tough to get on the roads. I looked at all the traffic cams this morning around the state. Most people are off the roads. They've hunkered down. But if you're getting close to that storm surge, I'm really concerned for you. The big thing now is we need everybody's prayer. If you want to donate, you can go to disaster, text disaster 20222 to do a $10 donation. We still need more volunteers. We need volunteers for our shelters. We're going to need volunteers to help us distribute food and water. We're going to need shelter volunteers to help us do cleanup. This is going to be a devastating storm for our state, but we're going to do everything we can to take care of everybody in our state.
Well, we know you're the busiest man in the country right now, and we only have a few minutes, but in terms of medical assistance, there's a lot of elderly in the state of Florida, a lot of people that are going to need that help. Can they get that at the shelters? What is your advice for them on where they can go to get the help they need?
We set up special needs shelters all over the state. We have been asking for nurses. We need more nurses to volunteer. You can go to helpfl at flhealth.org to volunteer. We need more nurses to volunteer. But we're a state that where people are volunteering. We need more. We've set up all these shelters. We have pet shelters, we've got general population shelters, and we have special needs shelters all around the state. I was on a call every day with our nursing homes, our assisted living, to make sure they get all the services they need, help them to evacuate. The last call I was on last night, we were on for probably over an hour, just getting evacuations done, getting resources, helping them make sure we take care of every one of those residents.
Governor, right now it's hunker down in survival mode for a lot of people as this storm moves through. What's your decision point or trigger point for search and rescue or follow through? How quickly could folks reach out, say through 911 or other means, to say, hey, I need a little help here?
Well, you can be reaching out. The problem is going to be the first responders can't get out in the rain, in the storm surge, or not the rain, but the wind more than anything else. The storm surge, they can't do anything about that, and they can't do, if it's above certain wind, they can't get out. But if you call them, they'll figure out what they can do, and they'll tell you how fast they can get there. But I can tell you, in no place in this state will any expense be spared. We have great first responders. I've already called up 7,000 National Guard members. I've talked to President Trump almost every day. He will provide every resource the federal government can. He's completely committed. So we're going to do everything we can. As this passes, we'll get resources. The problem we have is it's impacting both coasts. So it's made it more difficult to pre-position assets. But our utilities have already they're bringing in 23,000 individuals to help them. We've pre-positioned food and water around the state. So we're going to do everything we can to rescue anybody that needs to be rescued, but keep everybody safe.
And quickly, we know you have to go, but the millions of people that are likely to lose power, is your message to them, most importantly, patience? You need to wait for the storm to pass to really handle that situation.
Yeah. Absolutely. You can't get the utility trucks out in the wind and the weather, but I know the utilities are working hard. I'm doing a daily call with all the utilities. As soon as the storm hits, we'll be doing twice-a-day calls with all the utilities. So we get as many assets in here as fast as possible to get people their power back. I know the power is important to people. I know fuel is important. We've worked with the oil companies, with the gas distributors, the gas stations to get fuel back in the state as fast as we can. We've got to get people back to normal. But the first thing we've got to do is survive the storm. The next thing we have to do is rescue everybody that needs to be rescued, and then we start putting our lives back together.
Governor Rick Scott of Florida. Governor, thank you. You know, when I was in Hurricane Andrew in Florida, it crossed to the south of us, cut across the entire state. So all you had to do was go up to the next county, Broward County, Palm Beach County. That's where you could find electricity and air conditioning. Yeah. But this one is going to impact every single county in Florida, and it's going to be a long time before that state.
Yeah, every county is an island. I mean, it's a very self-sustaining situation. When you hear the governor basically saying, hey, hunker down, you take control of your own situation at this point, shows you how dire it really
Brian is a great example of that. Brian Yedis is on Miami Beach on the eastern side, but it just gives you a sense, even though it's going up now the west side of Florida, every part of the state of Florida is going to be hit. Brian, what are you seeing right now?
Yeah, so this is downtown Miami, not Miami Beach. But what we are seeing, though, guys, is that it's that southwest move. The wind is coming from the southwest part, which is where the storm is in relation to Florida. And so the wind is coming in through Biscayne Bay on my right, spinning around, and then leaving me on my left. And then it sometimes feels like it also is coming from over there. And it must be because of the buildings. It almost feels like the wind is bouncing off the buildings. But if Guy, don't know if the guy can maybe, you can just see, we've got down the trees and the stop sign behind me, which hasn't moved, or I would not be standing here right now, but the stop sign, which broke because of the wind, was right there. And again, the flooding has actually gotten worse. What we're starting to see here with this flooding was that initially it was just the metro area, right there. And now what we're starting to see is as that wind is pulling the water from Biscayne Bay in that southwest direction, it's bringing more water in, and we're starting to see that flooded water meet the flood on this side. And so it seems like the flooding is going to obviously extend out to this side of Biscayne Boulevard. Biscayne Boulevard is the big boulevard down here with American Airlines Arena, which you can no longer see because of the rain. Hey, Guy, I don't know if you guys can see this, but you see the tree down over there in the back. Guys, can you see that? That's a couple of trees that have fallen, and now the wind's really starting to pick up again. And this is what we're seeing all throughout South Florida. It's the type of wind that can definitely tear down certain trees. I'm sure of it in Coral Gables, for instance, an area with tons of trees. There's already reports of tons of trees down there, power lines down, and just debris flowing. But this has been a sustained wind now for about an hour and a half. It's been this bad. You know, when we first got here, it was intermittent and not like this at all. But now the wind has been a steady, serious wind out here for about an hour and a half, ever since we started the show with you guys.
Absolutely. Brian, how quickly has additional water come in, even in the last hour since we've been talking to you? How much more have you seen come in?
Well, you know what? It's starting to move more. I can't give you an amount. I can just tell you that this was the puddle here, right? It was not a puddle. This was the flood. It was right here. Hold on one sec.
All right, you can just see the heavy winds there.
No, we're good. We're safe. Yeah, we're safe. We're surrounded by buildings on purpose so that we can make sure that we're not being hit from things on that end. Anyway, so the wind's coming in. I would say that right now what we're about to see is not just a little portion right here, but it's probably going to extend about 400 feet that way, that flooded road. I can't see what's beyond that, but it doesn't look like the flooded road goes all the way that far on that end. So again, I mean, this is just a small portion of downtown Miami in this area. I can only imagine what Miami Beach must be feeling right now, given the fact that was a very big concern for emergency rescuers and for officials to make sure that everyone got out of Miami Beach, because with all those bridges to get to Miami Beach, you don't need a bridge to get to downtown Miami, but there are certain portions here. This was all under mandatory evacuation because they were expecting 5 to 6 foot storm surge here, if not more in some places, with the original trajectory of the storm. So yeah, it's just getting worse out here, guys. It's not getting better at all. It's just continuing to get worse.
Brian,
this is what we're going to be seeing for the next 20 to 24 hours.
Yeah, only going to get worse. You were showing us earlier some of the heavy pieces on the ground, you know, stop signs and things that have been pulled up and blown away. Also, have you seen any shattered windows? I mean, you're in a very popular area of downtown Miami.
You know, we thought we saw it, and I'm sure we did. We can't see it right now, but I would say probably up in that that building right there.
Second floor sucks. Do you want the third floor?
We for sure saw a hanging off of that, but we haven't seen anything else. It's a little tough to see from this end. But we're seeing parts of, you can see the top actual guy. If you see the top of the metro rail here, this is the metro mover that moves people in and around downtown. The top of the metro mover has been moving a lot more now, that roof part.
Who's Jeff, man?
Parts of the metro mover underneath the plastic parts falling out. When I showed you that plastic bar,
if I'm getting bad video, if I'm getting black screen, it's because internet's not doing too great. I'm back. Am I back? Tell me when I'm back. Tell me when I'm back, so I'm not getting good service right here.
Not so much anymore, but some people can get lulled to sleep with that and come outside and decide it's the right time to tree branch. See, this is the type of stuff that
you won't be in the Keys next weekend because they'll be closed for at least 2 weeks. You guys can see now.
Griff here in just a second, Brian, but Be safe out there. Be safe out there indeed. Is it, just give her, we're looking at it, you're in it. Is it cold? Is it warm rain? We know the water is warm. I mean, what's the the feel like there?
It's absolutely cold because we've been wet out here. It's not, you know, Miami at this time of year is humid. It is really humid. It's so humid you walk outside and you would sweat within a 10-minute walk, and it's something you got to get used to. Some people never get used to it, but that's how humid it is. It has, the temperature's dropped. It's really, really, you know, it's cold. It's freezing. And the visibility has dropped by a lot. I mean, if you just look down there, just see the trees. You used to be able to see the condos all the way in the back out there. You can barely see them now from the rain. You know, when we first got here, this was a wind event. I mean, a wind event. Now it's really becoming, we're really starting to feel this rain over the last hour, guys.
All right, Brian, please take care of yourself and stay safe out there. Those winds are heating up so quickly. Brian, thank you.
Let's get over to Miami Beach, not too far away from where Phil is. I'm sorry, Phil Keating is in Miami Beach right now. Phil, what's it looking like?
Well, we're getting another kick up of wind and rain pounding. More than 8 inches of rain have already fallen on Key Biscayne, more than 4 inches in the city of Miami. And that was as of like 2 or 3 hours ago, and it hasn't stopped raining since. And this is going to be the life all day long for Miami-Dade, Broward, Palm Beach counties, as well as, of course, even worse over in the Keys and up the west coast of Florida, the Gulf of Mexico side. Key West has already been slammed by the eye of the hurricane. We don't have any reports yet on immediate storm surge or damage, but as Rick Reitmuth was saying earlier, as these outer bands swing around and the center of the storm goes up the west side of the state, the east side of the state's going to get a lot of storm surge, and it's projected to be anywhere from 3 to 6 feet over in Miami Beach. So certain roadways should be flooded. This is clearly not a day to be out and about. Curfew just expired. It went into effect at 8 o'clock last night for Miami and Miami-Dade. And no one's on the street because driving is very treacherous, very dangerous. There are palm fronds all over the place. Just driving in from the hotel to get to this position at Pelican Harbor Marina, saw at least 3 transformers blow up in the sky, lighting up the sky with that electric blue light. Florida Power and Light now reporting that 1/3 of all of its customers have no power. They've lost their electricity. It's more than 400,000 households now without electricity. And Duke Energy, which also services the central and northern part of the state, predicts by the end of it, when it's all said and done, perhaps 6 million Floridians, or no, 1 million Floridians won't have power. The storm impacting and threatening 6 million Floridians as we speak. This is not just a today event. This is going to be a multiple day event. The worst of the rain and wind first started hitting Miami Beach and Miami-Dade County yesterday at around 4 in the afternoon. And then it was a very howling and rain driving night all night long. It's going to be like this all day. Storm surge could come later today as well. Flash flooding is the major concern, and tornadoes. Tornado watches and warnings are up all over the state, and there was actually a confirmed tornado last night down at the Homestead International Raceway, and a couple of funnel clouds spotted up in Broward County as well. So this is a multifaceted weather event, none of it very pleasant at all. Back to you.
You talk about the storm surge. I mean, where you're standing is going to be underwater in all likelihood if that surge comes ashore the way they are predicting.
Yeah, it all depends on exactly how many. You know, what the bottom of the range and the top of the range makes a world of difference for not only this marina, but for neighborhoods all over the city.
Phil Keating, thank you very much. Stay safe out there, along with everybody else. We appreciate your insight.
Just the beginning. All right, let's bring in Jeff Locke, who's in Punta Gorda in central Florida, just south of Tampa. Jeff, we were with you earlier. It looks like the winds have already picked up just since the last time we spoke to you.
Yeah, we're down ground level now, and yes, absolutely. We just checked the radar. If you look at it, there's a squall. You know, these squalls, even though the most convection comes near the eye wall, there are other squalls embedded within this, and we're kind of getting a little bit of a one now. And of course, the storm's nowhere near us yet. This is on the trail, though, and that's the way it goes. You know, I talked to you earlier about Punta Gorda having been through Charlie and the tremendous preparation that they make now. This has all been built built since Charlie. Look at these sophisticated flood barriers that they've got. Isn't this something? This is a steel barrier that keeps the water out, and they've even got gaskets. I don't know if Bob can see the end. These are gaskets to seal against the water. So when you've been through a Cat 4 storm, I'll tell you, you say, I'm going to be prepared for the next one. And it's really coming down right now. That's police. You can see that's Punta Gorda, City of Punta Gorda police. They are patrolling the streets, but you don't see a whole lot of other activity. There's another police vehicle up there, and somebody did go through. But most of this town, I think, fair to say, has pretty well evacuated. And it's a good thing because we're going to get a whole lot of water here. This town is surrounded by water. Next hour, perhaps, we'll go up to the bridge that takes you from Punta Gorda to Port Charlotte, which yesterday was dead ground zero on the line coming through. I know they tell you not to focus on the line, but if you're in the line, you might focus. It's now shifted. Of course, the track has shifted a bit west, but that means we get the dirty side of this storm, and we get the more intense activity. A couple more people still out. Maybe they're headed out. Yeah, there's a few. But, you know, like I said, people in this town have been through it. They're heading, that's towards 75. This is a road towards 75. I wonder, obviously not going to stop them, but I wonder if there's some people that said, you know what, I was going to stay. Maybe I'm going to rethink this. Yeah. 75 is open.
There are always a few. It surprises me to see how many of the lights are still on behind Jeff Flock there, and you know, the power lines are not going to last. And the other thing that happens after these storms is the stoplights. Yeah. The stoplights are often the first thing to go down if they don't have power, or if they do have power, they're often knocked down anyway. So people who try to get back on the roads all across Florida in the next couple of days after this thing passes are not going to have stoplights.
That's never frustrating, right?
No.
That might be the least of their problems, though, when you think about what they're going to be dealing with. But it's a great point, John. We now want to bring in Griff Jenkins, who has been in Naples for us all morning long. How have things picked up there, Griff?
You know, it's picking up. You can see the winds, but the storm is hundreds of miles away. Winds are probably at about 40 miles an hour, a few gusts. We actually saw a couple of people walking on the beach, and that's very concerning because Collier County Emergency Management has now officially declared a civil emergency and instructed residents to shelter in place. That's because, A, conditions have become such that you should not be traveling, and B, we've heard repeatedly here that the shelters, 27 of them, reaching capacity. So if you have decided, unfortunately, to stay and hunker down, then you need to do the things to get you safe, which is to get to high ground and to get away from windows and make sure that you are not in a structure that could collapse on you, because the devastation this storm could bring to this area, particularly with a direct or near direct hit, will be catastrophic. And it's going to be catastrophic on three levels: the wind, the storm surge, and then the flooding. And as the governor was just talking to you guys a few minutes ago about his hometown here in Naples, the storm surge could be upwards of 10 to 15 inches. So if I can try and give some perspective, the ocean is getting at lower tide now behind me. Could be where I am. I'm 5 feet 10. 15 feet, that's way twice over my head going in to all the buildings. And in 2005, Hurricane Wilma had a similar sort of impact here, and it flooded blocks in, as we saw in Hurricane Harvey and in Houston. The most dangerous part of flooding and storm surge is getting in your car. You get quickly into floodwaters, the door's shut, you cannot get out, and you are trapped and going to die. This is a very serious storm coming. The two people I saw walking on the beach, hopefully they might have been emergency management checking it. I couldn't tell. They're a ways away. But while it is windy and certainly rainy here, it is going to get significantly worse throughout the day. And in 24 hours from now, it could be one of the most catastrophic events to hit Naples in quite some time, guys.
Griff, what a powerful visual for you to be standing there saying the low tide is out. And if you're talking 5 to 15 feet, that could be 2 to 3 times over your head. At that point, if you're not in a safe spot.
I mean, much higher than many people's homes. Sure. If you think about it, if they're not built on stilts, that water's going to go straight over many of the homes there.
Let's check in with Rick.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Rick is tracking the latest location of the eye of the storm, although much of the storm is already hitting South Florida. Rick?
Well, the Keys, which is just that tiny little island chain out there, that will do absolutely nothing to it. It's going to stay over water. By this afternoon, it does weaken a little bit. There's storm shear that's going to move in, and that will help a little bit, for at least for far north Florida, but we still have at least hurricane-force winds. A lot of wave energy here on the east side of this storm. Waves also have a big difference based off of the shelf, the ocean shelf and the floor. You don't get as high of waves here in the Gulf because it's just that very flat sea that you can walk way out. Across the eastern shores, it's a very different thing. So the wave height and that energy is pulling in towards the Miami area, and that's going to be very concerning for us. But we will see that storm surge moving in there. And the center of the storm now, just crossing the Keys right here, they're getting pummeled with this. That line of red right there, that is the strongest that we have of probably all of the winds. So anywhere from Key West or Cujo Key and just up towards Marathon Key, that's where we're seeing the worst of the storm surge. All right, so, you know, we talk about the path, and everybody focuses on that. That is the path, the forecast cone. Take a look at this. This right there are winds that are at major hurricane strength winds, and tropical storm force winds. Watch what happens throughout the day today. This is why this is so concerning. It's the entire peninsula of Florida here that's going to be having hurricane force winds and major hurricane force winds potentially still all the way up, even in towards around Cedar Key. This is the latest look of it. You can see that center of the storm continuing to pull off towards the northwest. So this is just the very beginning, guys, of a very long duration event. And keep in mind, we're talking about Florida right now because they're getting the worst of it. But we will see this working in Georgia, Alabama, South Carolina. Incredible rain, power outages.
Right now, we can talk about places like
I'm getting Periscope on my dad's phone so I can see my own screen.
Naples has probably about 3 or 4 hours before they start getting very intense winds. It's going to be with them probably about 6 hours. Probably about 6 hours still in the Keys for this before that center of it, the strongest winds will move all the way past the south side of the eye wall has moved on. Then it moves towards Naples. By late this afternoon, it's up around Fort Myers. By tonight, it's in towards Tampa. By tomorrow morning, it is up around Apalachicola and moving in towards South Georgia.
Just those concentric circles that show that the entire state at one time would be under hurricane-force winds.
Yeah.
This is something I've never seen before.
Absolutely. This is a large storm. It's a really large storm.
Thank you, Rick.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Jillian Mele is in Tampa right now. As you just heard, the storm appears to be headed that way. Jillian, how's it looking?
Everyone getting ready. Most people got out of town in the last couple days. Actually, yesterday, the last flight went out of Tampa. So no more flights if you're trying to leave this area. People are still actually out and about walking a little bit and driving around. Hopefully, people still trying to evacuate the area. As the sun comes up, we can get a good look at the bay right now. Actually, about an hour ago, we had a little bit heavier rain that we saw. Some gusts of wind, and it's calmed down a little bit, but we're looking at the radar and we are expecting to see, you know, as Rick's been talking about, that rain picking up throughout the day, the next couple of hours. I want to tell you guys, though, we had a conversation about 5 o'clock this morning with a man walking his dog on the street. He lives a couple blocks away. He said it's been so chaotic here the last couple of days because, as you know, the storm was initially projected to be on the East Coast, then it shifted west, and now everybody's here has had to get ready. He said he saw his neighbors out in the street fighting. He said everybody's just been so stressed out and nervous. And actually about 4 minutes ago, there was a man walking 2 dogs down the street, and we said, "Are you staying?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, "I just had my home hurricane proofed 18 months ago." He lives literally right here across the street from the bay in an area that regularly floods. Not that they're going to flood on the 15th floor, but I said, "Are you comfortable staying there?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, we have food, like we're ready to go. So look, it's obviously not a good idea to stay here in these storms, especially when you're that close to the water. A lot of people worried about the storm surge. People have told us that they're going to be worried about the winds. They said, look, like, you get what it's like when you have things flying, that becomes an instant projectile. So people in this area are scared right now as they brace for the worst, guys.
Jillian, for those people that decided to stay behind in that area, if they change their mind, is there still time to get somewhere? What are you hearing about evacuations and shelters?
Yes, actually in this area right now, this is a mandatory evacuation zone. I will tell you that we went to a shelter last night. Actually, I want to bring this up on my phone if I can to show you. The county's website has a list of shelters right now, and on this website you can see it tells you which shelters are still open, which shelters will take pets still at this point, which shelters are capable for those who have special needs, and then at the bottom here you scroll down and you'll see a ton of them that are just full. We went to a shelter last night that was taking pets. It was completely full. We actually said, hey, can we talk to a couple people here, kind of see how people are feeling? And they were so busy dealing with a crisis at that moment, they were like, look, I'm sorry, right now we can't. And what happened is they had someone coming in who had special needs, and they couldn't accommodate them there. So they were trying to figure out where to send them. But there are still places. Utilize websites like that if you're still looking for somewhere to go.
Right, that's very helpful. Jillian Muley live for us there in Tampa. Jillian, stay safe out there. We'll catch up with you soon.
You know, this storm has obviously followed a very long path, part of which went through the Caribbean. And we had Rick on earlier talking about the power of that path and water. If it's going to flood in one place, it leaves another place.
Yeah, all of that water that piles in, 15 feet storm surge, that means there's water someplace else that isn't there. And this video that came out of the Bahamas is one of the most striking videos that I've ever seen from a hurricane, of the sea completely gone, people walking on the ground underneath what was the ocean. Take a look at this.
This is Long Island in the Bahamas, right?
Actually, I'm not sure which island it is, so you probably know that, John, and I don't. That's the seafloor. That's the seafloor. There was ocean water there, and now there's somebody. You see this guy walking around. He sees like the moorings holding piers down and boats that would have been there.
What causes that to happen, Rick?
All of that wind. If you have 185-mile-an-hour wind pushing water in one direction, it's also that water pushing it out in the other direction. So they were walking out in that on the ocean floor, completely void of any water there, because of the energy of this wind pushing that away.
Rick, would we see that anywhere within in the United States or off the coast of Cuba? Are we going to see places where that same effect happens, not just in, but out?
I've never seen that effect happen anywhere, to be honest with you. So it's hard to imagine, but especially a lot of that Gulf Coast of Florida is a really, really shallow sea there, and there's going to be a lot of, at least to start, pushing away from the coast of the water there before that water comes back in.
I have a low spot on my patio. When the rain collects, I take a broom and sweep it off. And that's what happens in these hurricanes. The wind takes all that water and piles it up against the shoreline.
That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. The worst of the storm surge is always right there at the eye, and it is from wind pushing the water and piling it up until you end up with, in some cases, a 30-foot storm surge. This one, that also, by the way, depends on the ocean floor and exactly how that piles up. But
sure,
that's exactly what this is.
I mean, you know how real it is when Rick Reichmuth says this is something I've never seen before.
Yeah, I saw that video last night, and I actually looked a little bit to be like, am I being, punked here by some
you got to make sure
video, because it seemed completely unreal.
Wow, unbelievable. Rick, thank you so much. We'll get back to you. We want to bring in now Dr. Michael Brennan, the Chief Hurricane Specialist at the National Hurricane Center. Doctor, thank you for being with us. As you're waking up this morning, what is most concerning as you now have a better sense of where the storm is headed when it comes to Florida?
Well, right now we're most concerned about the lower Florida Keys that are actually right in the eye wall of Irma right now. That's where those peak 130-mile-per-hour winds are. We saw a wind gust of about 90 miles an hour here at the Key West National Weather Service office, and that's just outside the core of the eye wall there. So conditions are much, much worse a little farther east, areas like Big Pine Key up to about mile marker 40 on US 1. And as you were just talking about, the worst of that storm surge is going to be happening like right there on the east side of the eye, as that really strong winds are driving that ocean water into the lower Keys, and that's where we're going to see that 5 to 10 feet of storm surge above ground level. So really life-threatening surge. That's why people were asked to leave the Keys. Anybody left there needs to be taking shelter from the wind, but also being aware that the water is coming up and is going to stay up for quite some time.
We've heard estimates from 5 to 10 to 15 feet. That's a pretty sizable variance. What makes the difference between 5, which may not be deadly, and 12 or 15?
Well, 5s can be pretty deadly. I mean, you don't want to be floating around in water up to your shoulders. But what happens is in the southwest part of Florida, up here between, say, Captiva, which is up near Sanibel Island, all the way down to Cape Sable, the bathymetry of the Gulf of Mexico is really shallow water, so the water really piles up in these regions. And so as Irma goes by on the west side, those winds coming from the northwest are just going to push the Gulf of Mexico up onto the land here and really pile that water up. And that's a very susceptible area for storm surge. You can see how far inland our storm surge warning goes here, away from the coast, up these rivers to like Fort Myers and Cape Coral. That's where we can see that peak surge. But even all the way up into Tampa Bay, we could be looking at 5 to 8 feet up in here. And there's millions of people that live in the Tampa Bay area, right along the bay and along the ocean front. So it's everybody here a little farther north still has some time to prepare and get out before the tropical storm force winds get there later today.
Dr. Michael Brennan, National Hurricane Center, busy day for you. We'll let you go. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Well, now we'll bring in once again, Phil Keating in Miami Beach as the winds pick up there. He's got an update for us on what we're seeing on the ground. Phil.
Yeah, John, these gusts are sometimes really moving you if you're standing around. You certainly shouldn't be on the roads shouldn't even be outside today at all. It's very dangerous. The wind is very strong. It's a tropical storm force in Miami-Dade County, bordering on the 60s and 70s. The highest speed of the wind so far recorded in the storm in Miami-Dade County, 70 miles an hour. Also a 70-mile-an-hour gust reported at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport yesterday. As of several minutes ago, a tornado warning has been issued in Miami-Dade County for a patch of land and neighborhoods that go from Miami Beach to Miami Gardens out to Pembroke Pines. So that's in effect right now. There have been numerous counties put on tornado warnings and watches since this all began in earnest late last night around 8 o'clock when the first real heavy bands of wind and rain started whipping through Miami and Broward counties. Driving rain, and there was a confirmed tornado touchdown at Homestead International Raceway last night. Some funnel clouds were spotted up in Broward. So that's going to be a day-long, if not 2-day-long concern. All of the tornadoes spawned off of the swirling counterclockwise rain bands and wind bands of Category 4 or Category 3 Hurricane Irma as we speak, as she marches up. The bottom of the eye wall has now crossed over.
Is driving. We have a driver. They're not the only ones. Ha! I hope they make it to where they're going. Oh my God. Oh my goodness. Look at this. This can blow your car off a highway. Driving is not smart. Do not drive in this storm. Do not move from your place of shelter, please. I have a giant building next to me, blocking a majority of the wind coming at the angle it is. Thank you, I'll clean the camera, sorry. I'm just looking at it, I'm not even looking at my camera. If the video looks all weird and not focused or nothing, it's just because I'm enjoying this. Hurricane boat lifts hurricane flag, withstands. It withstands. Marlin's skinny telephone pole with 2 transformers, it stands. I cannot connect my phone. I cannot connect my phone to Wi-Fi here. Network is secure. Don't have the password. I have Sprint right now. When I film from my other phone, I have Metro PCS. And if those 2 services go down, that tower you see kinda, that was there, but I can see it with the blue flashing light, that's the AT&T tower. Man, it is blowing. I don't know where my battery's at, but here looks like to be some of the strongest winds so far. I am in a very safe location, please understand. I have extreme thick concrete walls, not block, poured concrete, brick walls, a poured concrete roof, a solid concrete structure. I might need a new phone after this. Holy crap. Never seen something so beautiful and destructive all at the same time.
Holland, England, the other one. And then 3 or 4 that sound like United States people.
Look at this, man!
Bobby, that was Bobby on the phone. I called him.
Does he know about the stream?
I had to tell him there was a stream. We live streamed the whole thing. Live has been on YouTube. I said, since the storm started, it's been non-stop live. I said, about every 30 minutes. Mike turned to the sign and we're at the Marlin gas station, Island on 88. I said, so we're doing PR work. Said, how's that going? I said, how's 1,600 people following you? I can't read that.
I don't know, there's
Key West all the way through Big Pine Key have been experiencing the northern eye wall of Irma now for the last
Fox News got the stream.
Oh, okay, and I said, a bunch of followers, Bobby. What do you mean? Pick up the phone, I went, oh, I said, yeah, thank you, man, you guys doing a great job, be safe, blah, blah, blah. He said, who was that? I went, London, England, I don't know who. We went, London, England, I went, Iceland, Japan, Australia, fucking, I said, you name the continent, they've called us, asked this story. It's like, you gotta be kidding me. I'm like, no, I said, we've been mentioning your, I said, until your sign blew away, I said, we were showing your sign every now and then. He went, hold it, my sign blew away? I went, oh yeah, your sign blew away. I said, the frame's still there. You know?
I don't know if the frame's gonna be there. Yeah, the owner. My God.
While I was on the phone to Bobby, I had 9 footballs all over the place. I was like, damn. He said,
are you guys
he said, have the girl answer the phone. I went, Bobby, she did 24 hours straight. She's sleeping. He said, have you slept? And I went, I've been doing power naps.
Are you kidding me?
I said, I'll do another one in a minute. So when this shit goes by, get up.
evacuating if you've been told to do so by your local officials. Once you get north of Lake Okeechobee, you still have some time here in the west central part of the Florida coast to evacuate if you have not yet done so. So please heed any advice you get from your local officials. A very dangerous day unfolding for the Florida Keys, South Florida, the west coast of Florida. So everybody should please pay attention to updates on Hurricane Irma as we go throughout the day. This is Mike Brennan at the National Hurricane Center.
There you have it. That's live and the latest.
They're going to have to go up there and deal with it. I know that.
And that's your 8 a.m. update. And I'm going to give you a little bit of idea about where we are now. The eye of the storm has come ashore right in the middle of the Keys. Here's Miami, here's Naples, here's the whole Key chain. This is Key West. And the storm is now sitting just east-northeast of Key West. So they're on the backside. So Key West is getting winds coming in this way, where Big Pine Key, Marathon are getting onshore. We don't have a lot of resources down there. The National Weather Service has a monitoring station at Sugarloaf Key, which is right here. So just, a few miles up from Key West. And that is down now. Not a lot of reports coming out of Key West at the moment, though we know this entire county, 3/4 of this county is without electricity. Miami-Dade, in the Miami, generally speaking, Miami area, about 500,000 people without, more than 150,000 up in Broward County. The thinking is that this storm is going to just keep skirting up the shore. You saw what he was saying about the eye remaining just offshore, past Fort Myers, with heavy onshore flow, lots of storm surge here, and then eventually somewhere in the
Guys, I can't describe this. I have no words.
If this storm comes into south of Tampa and ends up putting Tampa on the track like the storm. But if the storm
I have no words.
Straight up into Tampa Bay, these local areas around St. Pete, southern New Museum, which by the way is the Category 5 storm.
We still have power.
Inside, and we've got the weather to watch the storm even bigger like this. This area is all, frankly, this entire coast. They're getting it pretty bad.
Did you hear that? Did you hear that? The whistle.
Miami Beach, of course, this other map. Biscayne Bay, right here, the highest water just happened. Unofficially, they say from the National Weather Service, but unofficially, right about here. Phil Keating is our landing. He's on the 79th Street Causeway. This is the 79th Street Causeway. Here's South Beach, for those of you familiar. Surfside, Holiday Beach. This is the city of Miami proper. 79th Street Miami is a grid system. He's on the Miami side of the 79th Street Causeway. This is where our local television station, WSVN 7, is. The level above sea level, there is 0. 2 feet above sea level, this will flood. And there's our television station, WSVN 7, right there.
They want the calm. They're calling for the calm.
Let's go to Phil Keating.
Not till it's over. Not till it's over.
They're all clear.
We blew it for Key West. We'll blow it when it's over.
And then be outside, and should stay inside. Absolutely, and definitely stay off the roads. Driving pretty treacherous, a lot of palm fronds on the streets. This is the
Whale Harbor, 120-mile-an-hour wind.
We really have of them sink here, but they have sunk elsewhere overnight. The real heavy rain and wind bands really first started impacting Miami-Dade and Broward last night in the 8 o'clock hour. And then all night overnight, it was a howling night of wind and driving, howling winds. Look at the trees, our wind bands of a hurricane come, they come, and they go.
Sorry about that. I accidentally pressed the button I wasn't supposed to. Yeah.
said and done with lose power. Florida Power and Light, which handles much of the south part of the state, have already said 1 out of every 3 customers has lost electricity. We saw transformers blowing up, lighting up the sky in electric blue this morning as we drove over to this live shot position. So it's going to be a very long day for Miami Beach. Storm surge is going to hit the beach in the next several hours, up to 3 to 5 feet. That's going to flood streets.
Don't call me a dork.
Very real danger. Since overnight, 8 inches plus.
It's up. It's back up.
Key Biscayne alone. More than 4 inches, probably around 5 at this point, have fallen on Miami, the city of. So this is going to be a day-long rain event. It's going to be a lot of damage. Nobody is supposed to be leaving their house.
Yep.
7 and 8 p.m. last night. 7 this morning for Miami and Miami Beach. Well, that's now expired, but consider it still in effect because nobody's leaving. No one's
I mean, I'm the only connection here.
Treacherous.
I mean, I think I literally am the only connection here.
It's going to be a very long day here, and of course,
he's got his up too, right?
There's actually a tornado warning in effect right now for Miami Beach up to Hialeah, Miami Gardens.
I don't know who boat guy is. He's on a boat somewhere, but no one can verify exactly where he's at.
Possible tornado spotted last night. One confirmed at the Homestead International Raceway down in South Miami-Dade County. And these are going to be happening all day long. Those tornadoes get spawned by the outer rings of the hurricane. And this Irma, she is a monster.
Oh, I don't care if people know my real name. It makes it easier to identify.
Florida itself, maybe 4 times.
But the old highway is still dry, bone dry.
Bill Keating on Miami Beach, the 79th Street Causeway, so right here, just up the beach, Hollywood, Florida, and our local station, WSVN7, with a live report out of there right now. Let's listen in.
Bad, really bad. All right, Scott, show them what we're looking at here. We're looking towards the beach. We're looking east on Garfield Street in Hollywood.
Holy crap. Well, I hope this went worldwide.
Pretty good here. You know, it's funny, but news managers and news directors have told me over the years, you sports guys are pretty good at doing news, at doing hurricanes, and that's because all we do is describe what we see.
We're all safe. I love you, Mom.
Action, and there is plenty of action out here to describe. Not only, you all right?
Okay. This ain't Hurricane Charlie.
Not only are we seeing trees blowing, but we are feeling the winds, and more than that, we are feeling the sand.
Yeah, man, I hope those people left. I hope all those people left.
100 yards back, maybe 200 yards back. We're getting pelted with sand. It feels like little needles just keep pelting us in the
I understand how it works. It's spinning in a circle.
My hands are full of
but
sand.
it's jogging.
It's awful. We can also hear.
Yeah, it's jogging to the west.
The wind.
So, man, I'm hoping all the people in Marco, all the people in freaking Fort Myers, all the people all over Florida are taking heed to
you'll know this from being up north.
You got these news reporters on the dang computer.
In a fireplace, you hear that.
I'm gonna go back out and get those 120 wins, Mom. I love you.
These trees, of course, are wet, but when they bend, you still hear that same crack. You can hear wood cracking in these palm trees.
This is it. This is the worst of it.
Oh, man. I'm just going to put this thing.
As soon as the storm clears.
So we'll have more gas as soon as the storm clears. Look, the way the building is facing, it is facing away from the ocean. The double doors have received no wind impact. They will receive no wind impact, giving the placement of the building.
Maybe we'll try to get back into the garage.
That's how this works. We're getting the shift now. It's coming from the opposite direction, but the building will still block 90% of the wind.
The garage is actually greater than the wind outside.
I'm not trying to keep saying this. I have a YouTube. My videos are on YouTube. You can see my face there. You can see my storms I captured, my clouds.
For those of you watching on Fox television stations across America, we'll have continuing coverage throughout the day, all afternoon, into the evening and night, and first thing tomorrow. Non-stop hurricane coverage on Fox News Channel and satellite and cable. We want to return you watching on your local station.
Look at this. This is power. Presidents, world leaders, no, they don't have power. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Mother Nature, you got it. You got it.
Hollywood International Airport. That's where this is. It's very near the
Light me one of those up there. Anytime. Wipe us right off the map.
Not just from, not just from the wind. I'm talking about walking against the wind, not just from the wind, but we're walking into flying debris, and we're walking into
Mother
sand.
Nature is one-upping everyone.
We're walking into rain, so you can't see, so it's not just the 60 miles an hour sustained wind or the 86 mile an hour gusts. You can see across the garage what it's blowing like, and this is blowing from the beach west in Hollywood. But it's also...
You guys need to come together. Don't let them separate us. We're all human.
Thing to do, especially in that blowing wind and rain. I'm going to show you where this thing is. I'm going to get to Rick.
We still have power. 120 mile an hour winds. We still have power.
It's certainly going to sit off Southwest Florida.
No backup generators here. Understand that.
Naples down to the south, and then head north and inland.
The street light, I believe, is off, but it is still there.
It doesn't matter how many records I break or how many rings I win. I know I can always be better. There are two of me. There's the person I am and the person I'm driven to be. We're in a constant chase to become the best version of myself. Infinity, empower the drive.
Guys, the rain is touching buttons on my phone. I apologize.
We started Hubble because contact lenses are too expensive. At Hubble, our fresh daily contacts.
The rain is touching buttons on my phone. I apologize.
Get your first two. Free at HubbleContacts.com.
Marie Callender knows that a homemade turkey dinner can make anyone slow down and pull up a seat to the table. That's why she takes the time.
Hello? Hello? What's up? Supposedly 120 mile an hour winds. I can't verify that. I can just see what I see and capture it on video. Yeah, Vintage Sky says with the HRRR and the Icon models that we got 70 mile an hour winds. So, not sure how accurate that actually is, but it looks pretty ferocious out there, and I appreciate the phone call. Good luck up there in Tallahassee. We had a power flash.
Tell your doctor right away if you have these, new or worse depression, unusual changes in mood, swelling, trouble breathing, rash, hives, blisters, muscle pain with fever, tired feeling, or blurry vision. Common side effects: dizziness, sleepiness, weight gain, swelling of hands, legs, and feet. Don't drink alcohol while taking Lyrica. Don't drive or use machinery until you
Thank you, man. I appreciate it too.
Those who've had a drug or alcohol problem may be more likely to misuse Lyrica.
With less pain, I can do more with my family.
Talk to your doctor today. See if Lyrica can help.
Fox News Channel on
Hang
Sirius
on.
XM. Your favorite shows on
There's
Channel
no other answer
114.
for that.
Plus, every
We
story,
don't know how
every
big the
15
storm surge
minutes.
is going to
Fox
be.
News
We don't know
headlines
what it's going to be
24/7.
like.
Channel
But we're pretty far from the eye. So we're hoping that as the storm pushes to the west, it will lighten up on
Hurricane
us.
Irma continuing coverage on Fox News Channel live here in the city of Miami. driving around. This is northeast
It
Miami-Dade
is,
County,
but they
I'm
built
told,
these cell phone
or
towers
northeast
down here
Miami,
to
I should
withstand
say.
much more than 150 mile an hour
It is
wind.
a howler of a day there, and consider that the storm is
Thank
off
you
the
so
other
much, sir.
coast. It's coming up the west coast of Florida, and it has already hit the Florida Keys. The forward motion is so slow that it's just going to sit and spin, as they say in the Weather Center, and could deliver hurricane-force winds for as long as 12 hours, tropical storm-force winds longer than that. Carol Stroud is riding out this storm in Key West.
I have
is live
Sprint
on the
unlimited
line with us.
data.
Carol, what can you
Costing
tell
me
us?
nothing.
How are things
I have
there?
Metro unlimited data. It's costing me nothing.
Things are pretty rough. It's
Hello.
rainy and it's scary.
Where are you?
I'm in the senior citizens building.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And it's safe. You know, we're safe here.
Be safe and be
But
prepared.
it's built for other people out there.
Do you have electricity?
Yes, we have. They have generous power.
And have you lived in Key West for a while?
I lived in Key West all my life. Whatever it is.
Compare this to others that you've experienced.
There's no comparison.
You know, I always get concerned with comms because they're a resilient type, and they're close to their land and close to their boats and love their lifestyle there, and often the comms won't leave, and we know that many residents of Key West have stayed behind. Some
but there's, you know, I got
Yes, I smoke cigarettes.
in there,
But it's only because pot is not legal in the state of Florida.
Why did you decide
That's why I
to
bought
stay?
land in Colorado and started
I don't
building a
blame
tiny
you, but
house.
why
But
did
Irma
you decide to
decided that
stay?
she was going to put it to the test.
Oh, well, my dog. Not my reason.
Check my YouTube for the tiny house video. You'll see it. On the road. Brought it down here in
Traffic
January.
and the gas situations on the road.
I work for Iowa Aluminum.
I really don't
We do all the
like
rails
being
and the
on the road.
keys.
I'd rather be stuck here under a here with all the
And
stuff
my
that-
fiance works for the
than on
Marlin
the
gas
road.
station.
Carol, our
Who
local
provides
station,
fuel
WSBN
for
7
everyone in
in
the
South
city.
Florida, is driving along the North
stop
Bay
sign
Village
has left
Causeway
the
now.
car.
This is the
Anyone been
causeway
paying
that connects
attention to the
Miami
stop
to
sign on the
Miami
car?
Beach right at 79th
I don't know
Street.
where
These
it
are live
went, but it
pictures.
went.
It's
It's
not
gone.
as bad up in Miami as we've heard it is down there.
Yeah,
What
at
have the
least it's
winds
going
and
away
rain
from
been
us.
like for you, Carol?
The wind, it was moving on. I took some videos. It's on my Facebook page. If anyone wants to check it out, they're always...
Do not go out in this storm. If you go out in this storm, you will die. And if you die, it will not be my fault. Do not go out in this storm. If you are in the keys, upper
We
keys,
don't want you
lower
to go
keys,
outside and put yourself in
stay
any
in
danger.
place.
If you have looked
Shelter
already,
in
what did you
place.
see out there?
We're getting a lot of
Do
water
not.
on the road. A lot of
Do
trees
not,
are
I
down.
repeat,
Big
go
trees.
out in this
Over
storm.
here in the housing authority area, there's some big almond trees down. And I can't really see because the rain is so thick. I can't see past Poinciana School.
This is video for our viewers. This is video that Carol shot for us. That actually is on her Facebook. And Carol, it looks. When was this taken?
This was taken this morning. The latest one was taken this morning.
How much damage you think around there?
There you are.
I think it's going to be devastating, really.
That's what the doctor ordered. Chocolate water.
Carol Stroud with us from a senior citizen
I don't
center.
know what the temperature is.
You're in Key Largo or
But I
Key
do
West?
know
This
it's
says
windy.
Key Largo. No, Adam Housley. You're in Key West. I want to get to Key Largo now. Our own Adam Housley is live in Key Largo for us this morning. Good grief. Good morning, Adam.
Yeah, Shepard, the range of the storm really has hit Key Largo.
Not sponsored.
It really started with
Sorry.
30-mile-an-hour sustained winds yesterday morning at around 10 a.m., and it continued to get worse throughout the day. At night, we were up until about 3:30 on Fox News, and at that point, the winds were between 50 to 60, but when we got up, after about 3 hours of downtime,
I'm
look
getting
behind
there,
us
I'm
a
getting
way.
there.
You can see the range of the storm come through, Shepard. Now, we're in a protected area. We're in a
still have
Cat
phone.
5 rated
We have
3-story
internet.
hotel.
And we have no
So
power.
we're kind of
Back
out
on
of the
again. Now
wind,
it's
if you
another
want to
side.
take or call it that. We're
Another
just
power
a little
flag.
bit. So just look out beyond us.
I don't know how you're doing
5
it.
feet from behind where I'm
Keep the
standing,
power
you can see
coming.
there's trees snapped. There's
one tree across there that's got to be about 4 feet around, Shepard, and about maybe 15 feet up. It is snapped absolutely in half. You can see the power of Irma as she comes ashore. As she comes ashore, Shepard, also, again, after being battered since 10 a.m. yesterday morning, by the wind meter that I have, shows gusts here 75, 80 miles an hour. I put it out just gone from where our protected pool part is. And the rain has slowed Shepard significantly. We know also about midnight yesterday when it crossed the island, you don't know how Key Largo works. It's about a mile wide at the area where we're located.
The battery died. I was looking to my metro phone. Same account, and we'll go on.
And that was at midnight, way before the rage of this storm has come through, Shepard. We're on the bay side right now. The bay water hasn't come up yet. You can see we're still getting it from the easterly direction, Shepard.
Man, how many more hours of this kind of thing are you guys expecting, Adam?
They're telling us we could have another 12 hours, Shepard, and we haven't had power since most of the Key Largo area, for that matter, the northern Keys, had power for, gosh, well, 10:30 yesterday morning it went out for us. And it has just been nonstop wind. I mean, we've been in other hurricanes before, you have as well. You don't usually have it for this long unless the hurricane is stalling off the coast. In this case, the hurricane is just absolutely blasting the Keys. We saw a couple of people here at the hotel. There were a few folks that could not get out. They could not get a flight. They could not drive. And I'll tell you, from being here for the last 4 days, what they decided to do was find a Category 5 rated hotel, and this owner decided to stay open to help those people. Other hotels did not do that for the liability purposes and also the unknown purposes of what this hurricane might do. At one point, Key Largo was where the eye was supposed to cross. We're not going to get the eye, I don't think, Shepard. We haven't seen the hour, but we're going to be close enough, obviously, to get some pretty horrific conditions, Shepard.
Adam Housley live with us there. I want to show our viewers where you are. This is Key West down here, the southernmost point. Key Largo up here, about 100 miles away. And we believe this storm is sitting just to the east-northeast of Key West. It's traveling at about 8 miles an hour and in the general direction north-northwest. So headed, generally speaking, in this way. This is Naples, Everglades City, sort of the southern Collier County. Completely evacuated, I'm told. Our understanding is there's not a human being in Everglades City that got them out loud. Marco Island is just up from that. Marco Island, lots of high-rise condominiums and hotels along the beach. It has been a victim before. Then up to the Naples and the Naples area, Pelican Bay, North Naples, Bonita Springs, Cape Coral, Fort Myers, Sanibel Island, Captiva Island, all of them. It's on the way. Let's bring in Michael Brennan now, the Chief Hurricane Specialist with the National Hurricane Center in Miami. Michael, exactly where is this eye now?
Well, right now it's right over the lower Florida Keys, just to the east of Key West, in the vicinity of, say, Big Pine Key. You can see they've just come the northern eye wall right here, where you see those oranges and reds. That's where those peak 130-mile-per-hour winds are in the hurricane. The eye is just about to make landfall, probably in the next hour or two, as it wobbles across the Keys here. And you know, that's where they've seen those peak winds, and the storm surge is going to be greatest right on the east side of that eye, where it's pushing that water up over the Keys. That's where we're going to see that 5 to 10 feet of surge above ground level. And on the west side of the eye, Key West is going to actually see their strongest storm surge after the eye goes by from the Gulf side. So it's going to be a really rough day. The lower Keys, the upper Keys are in this big rain band here. Wouldn't be surprised if this band contains sustained hurricane force winds even out quite a ways from the center. It's beginning to impinge on the southern part of the Florida mainland now.
Michael, what's the science on the track? What's ahead for us?
Well, the track right now, we're moving north-northwest, and we're expecting that motion to continue, but the pick up in forward speed as there's a little dip in the jet stream that's going to sort of pick Irma up and pull it up here into the southeastern U.S. The trick is that because it's moving parallel to the coast, our forecast would have it moving somewhere in the vicinity of the Tampa Bay area overnight tonight. But if it moves a little to the right, it could make landfall over here near Cape Coral. If it moves a little to the left, it could make landfall all the way up here in the Big Bend. So hundreds of miles difference in the potential landfall location, just a slight shift in the track. So everybody in this hurricane warning area needs to be prepared for the possibility of the core of the hurricane moving over them from today all the way into tomorrow.
I remember back in 05 when Wilma hit as a Cat 3, and then the year before, another big storm as well, Charlie as a Cat 4. The tracks are not exactly similar, but you had a better idea of where they were going. With this one, A little east of Fort Myers is one thing, a little west is another. Same with Tampa.
Yeah, it makes a big difference in the storm surge. This area, as you know, is very sensitive to storm surge, especially we're concerned about this area from Captiva all the way down to Cape Sable, where we could see 10 to 15 feet of surge right in here. And that's why there had those big evacuations in Collier County, Lee County, because the surge can go quite a ways inland here on the west coast. We could also see surge of 5 to 8 feet up here in the Tampa Bay area, and even 4 to 6 feet above ground level all the way up into the Big Bend. So a big risk for storm surge. And then the wind threat is going to encompass most of the state of Florida. Is going to see sustained tropical storm force winds, wind gusts up to hurricane force, and you're going to see sustained hurricane force winds along the west coast and even just inland. So there's going to be a lot of wind damage here in the state of Florida that everybody's going to have to contend with after Irma goes by.
Before we let you get back to it, Michael, as it heads north and, well, now north-northwest, is the thinking that before it makes landfall next, it remains about the same, it gets stronger, it gets weaker, and why?
We're expecting it to remain about the same. It's still going to be over water for about 12 hours or so more as it moves up off the west coast. Then the shear is going to begin to increase, the upper level wind, so that should cause it to slowly weaken, and then once it makes landfall, it'll weaken more quickly. But we're still expecting it to be a hurricane up here in the North Florida near the Georgia border. So there are actually tropical storm watches and warnings up here across much of Georgia, Alabama, even into parts of Tennessee. So there'll be wind and rain hazards from Irma moving well inland up into the southeast U.S. Later in the week.
Michael Brennan from the Hurricane Center in South Florida. Certainly do appreciate you and your colleagues. Thank you, Michael.
Thanks.
I want to show our viewers where this is. These strengths over here, you can't really pay that much attention to them, but exactly where the storm is going to make landfall. Everybody knows the storm uses, the fuel is this really hot water, and it's very hot in the Gulf off southwest Florida. It will either come in somewhere around Fort Myers, Captiva, somewhere up north of there in the Tampa Bay area, but wherever it is, it's many, many hours away. And the worst side of the storm, yet a round storm, that northeast quadrant is always the worst part of the storm, every storm. Or to the upper, to north and northeast. So that whole coast is going to be battered from sunrise to sundown tonight. And the question is, where does it go ashore? Because that's where the worst of the winds are. Two big storms in 2004 and 2005 in southwest Florida. There hasn't been a major hurricane to hit the Tampa Bay area since 1921. And before that was back in the 1800s. When the last storm hit in the Tampa Bay area, they called it the Tarpon Springs storm because it came ashore just north of Tampa in Tarpon Springs. There were 10,000 people living in the Tampa Bay area. That's the last major storm. 3 million live there today. Since 1921, they've gone from 10,000 people to 3 million people. This entire coast is heavily populated now. There was a time when between Naples and Fort Myers, you had these open stretches of roadway along I-75 or along Highway 41. No more. It's all grown together from Naples to Fort Myers and all the way up the coast. And what this day will bring really remains to be seen. Our coverage continues in just a moment. A quick commercial break on Fox News Channel.
Back for any occasion with Joseph A. Bank's Super Tuesday sale and save up to 70% store-wide. Executive suits $199. Best-selling traveler shirts $3 for $99. Plus, take an extra 50% off clearance items. The Super Tuesday sale, only at Joseph A. Bank.
Marie Callender knows that a homemade turkey dinner can make anyone slow down and pull up a seat to the table. That's why she takes the time to season her turkey to perfection and make stuffing from scratch, so that you can spend time on what really matters. Marie Callender's, it's time to savor.
Vikings didn't actually have horns on their helmets.
Ostriches don't really stick their heads in the sand.
A peanut is not a nut.
And a real John Deere is actually real affordable. You learn something new every day. The surprisingly affordable John Deere E-Series tractors. Now you can own America's tractor for just $99 a month. Learn more at your John Deere dealer.
Hi, Kathy, thank you for my new Red Copper 5-minute nap. You're gonna love the way this kitchen wonder makes delicious home-cooked food in a flash. Making omelets in a fry pan is time-consuming and Such a mess. Well, try this. Place in sausage, peppers, egg, and cheese. Then close the lid. No folding, no flipping, and in just 4 minutes, a delicious light and fluffy omelet. Designed with 2 deep wells, 5-minute chef cooks from the top and bottom. So my homemade corn dogs are done fast and easy. Make fabulous fruit pies in minutes. Infused with pure copper, and thanks to anti-scratch technology, it resists the toughest sponge. 5-minute chef is faster than takeout. Look, the meltiest, cheesiest pizza ever. Can't do that in a round pan. And no sticking. Everything comes right out. 5-minute chef is smaller than a toaster and cooks beef or pork moist and juicy while cutting cooking time in half. Even makes stuffed fried chicken. No fuss. And when you crave a quick dessert, stir up a little cake mix and fill in the well. Add cookies or candy and close the lid. In just minutes, this chocolate lover's dream. There's never a mess. Just a quick wipe and it's peace. Sear a sirloin, fry hash browns, bake biscuits faster than preheating an oven. The perfect sunny side up eggs, then flip it over for over easy. That was easy. Call now and get my red copper 5-minute chef with spatula for just $39.99, and I'll ship it all for free. Plus get my 5-minute meals and desserts recipe book free. If red copper ever fails, we'll replace it guaranteed. But wait, you can double the offer and receive a second set, plus our Flipwich sandwich maker. Just pay a separate fee. It lets you flip delicious hot sandwiches in just minutes. An incredible value, and I'll even ship it free. Call now.
Call 1-800-971-4607 to get your red copper 5-minute chef. Call or visit my5minutechef.com. So call 1-800-971-4607. That's 1-800-971-4607. Order now.
Ditching the cover-up for good? That's cool. Showing off my arms? That's cool.
Being comfortable without a shirt? That's cool.
Getting the body you want without surgery, needles, or downtime? That's Cool Sculpting. Cool Sculpting is the only FDA-cleared, non-invasive treatment that targets and freezes away stubborn fat cells. Visit CoolSculpting.com today and register for a chance to win a free treatment.
Continuing coverage of Hurricane Irma, and look at this in South Florida. This is Miami from Instagram. See that crane there in the center spinning around and around? They weren't able to take all the big cranes down, the construction cranes in Miami. They're in the middle of a huge construction boom. They couldn't get them all down because some of them take up to 2 weeks to fold them up and store them away. And though they had a lot of notice on this storm, they didn't have 2 weeks of notice. So they just did what they could to tie them down and told people who live around them to get out. And that looks like that was probably a good idea, as this storm is whipping at least one of those cranes around right now. We just got a dispatch from Key West, where the National Weather Service is now warning people if it gets quiet along the Keys, which is happening, especially like Big Pine Key, that they may very well be in the eye of the storm. And they're warning people, do not go outside, because just as the eye passes, you get hit by another part of that wall. And the winds are so strong. The strongest of them all would be right around that eye center. And that, if you're outside in it, it can just come up just like that. And it's not a wall of water that's moving. You'll look down at your ankles and they'll be covered. And then in a few minutes, it's your knees. And before you know it, it's up to your neck. It's not an immediate thing, but in a matter of minutes, everything can change, as it will over the next few hours in Naples, Florida. If you look at that map, the lower left-hand corner is the Everglades, very bottom. Just up from that is the Naples and Marco Island area. Naples is a city of about 21,000 people. That region that they call Southwest Florida, about 330,000 people. And Naples is the heart of northeastern getaways, and our Griff Jenkins is live there, south of Fort Myers in Naples. Griff, how's it looking?
They're just feeling the tropical wind.
Well, it happens. Microphones tend not to work perfectly. It sounds like his is working again now. Let's listen. Go ahead, Griff.
Hey, Shep, sorry if you couldn't hear me there. The tropical winds just setting in Collier County Emergency Management, telling people to shelter in place because it's going to be a very long day, letting people know that first responders are starting to pull off the road and bearing down. And as you were just talking about, the storm surge is what The governor and the mayor here has been talking about being a real concern. The winds, and as you mentioned, the northeast quadrant of the storm possibly hitting us here much later this afternoon. Just to give some perspective to our viewers, the ocean's in low tide here now behind me. I'm on Naples at Gulf Shore Drive and Vanderbilt Beach Road. Normally this would be an absolutely packed area, prime spot, but that low tide much later this afternoon and into the night may be as high as 8 to 10 feet, Shep. I'm 5'10". That's almost twice me or more. And if you have stayed behind, then it is far too late and you cannot run. You have to get high, you have to shelter and hunker down, and that's a worst case scenario. And what's coming, strangely, I saw 3 people, one guy walk out in the water. That's unfortunate because, as we have heard time and time again, this is not something to take lightly. This is very, very serious. The folks here in Naples are...
Well, his mic is cutting in and out. They're using wireless technology there that allows it to be down by the beach. Griff, thank you for that. The question on Naples is not whether, but when. They don't think the storm is going to come in before Naples, so it would be on the wettest side. So Naples and Marco Island, and then up into Bonita Springs, Bonita Bay, into South Fort Myers, the islands of Sanibel and Captiva. We were talking about Sanibel just a little while ago. Northern Captiva got a direct hit from Hurricane Charlie back in 2004 as a Category 4 storm. Did a lot of damage, especially to the northern part of that. This is a look live in Key Largo, Florida. So the storm is west of this. It's in the lower Keys, right around Big Pine Key. And if you were to go due north from Big Pine Key, that's Everglades City. And you'd have to go west from there to get to Naples. So where exactly are we expecting the worst of it all over the next few hours? Rick Reichmuth, our chief meteorologist, is live in the Extreme Weather Center. What are you thinking, Rick?
Well, I mean, everybody's getting something over the next few hours. In fact, we've had a lot of it already. Fort Pierce has looked like it's picked up about 8 inches of rain. We have that flooding going on way up here in Fort Pierce already, and maybe 8 inches of rain, and that's way far away from the center of the storm. The center now crossing over the Keys right here. In fact, we're probably going to have people right here in these lower Keys have that moment where they can go out and look up and see completely calm conditions right here in the center of this. Not the case on at Key West. They're on the opposite side of it. They're going to have that wind coming out of the north. Marathon Key over towards Key Largo coming in from the south. But we're about to have this complete clearing right there, which is a pretty spectacular sight to see. Tornadoes are going to continue going on. We've had tornado watches all up and down the eastern seaboard here. And you just notice the direction of this rain coming in that is continuing to put water up into there. So we have storm surge warnings all up and down the eastern seaboard of Florida and in across parts of Georgia and South Carolina. Everybody obsesses with this track. It is really important for the localized impacts of this. But take a look at this is sustained hurricane force winds. Obviously, a lot of these gusting up towards maybe 130 miles an hour. This right here are hurricane gusts, and that's tropical storm gusts. So there's your track. You get the idea that the extent of this goes a very long way. By tonight, so we're talking about 18 hours from now, we have hurricane force winds gusting all the way out towards Titusville, Cape Canaveral. We have sustained hurricanes right there in around the Tampa area. And I will tell you, Shep, the storm surge is different in this case. When we have a storm coming in directly in towards the shore, you get that storm surge in that right front quadrant. After the storm goes away, that storm surge all rushes off. Because it's running parallel to the coastline, exactly where this makes landfall, a lot of the storm surge for some of these areas are going to come afterwards with the wraparound wind. So you might make it through the storm initially without the storm surge, but then the water is going to come in afterwards back at you. So that'll likely be the case, could be the case in Naples, where at first, right now, they've got all the wind coming away, pushing the water away from shore. Eventually, it will change that direction and come on shore. Hurricane warnings, though, Shep, take a look at this. Hurricane warnings extending into Georgia, Albany, Tifton, Valdosta, Waycross, under hurricane warnings that far inland from a storm that's far south. Take a look at this, all up towards the North Georgia mountains, tropical storm warning. So we're going to have that wind for a long time. We're talking tomorrow evening by the time the storm is way up here.
Rick, look at this video just in from Naval Air Station Key West. This is video that they took there on site. Key West, as it turned out, as far as landfall goes, Key West was on the storm came ashore east of it, so up the Keys around Big Pine, right?
Yeah, but this, I mean, they're getting in just right at the edge of the eye wall on the left side of it. So instead of getting that storm surge coming in on the right side, they're getting a storm surge coming from the other side of it, coming in from the north. So they're getting it there still, but that storm surge, that kind of right front storm surge that we think of, is on the other side of it, up towards the Key Largo area. But that doesn't mean they're not getting that surge coming in from the north there. And those pictures are scary. I'm sure exactly where, like Big Pine and up towards Cujo Key, they're seeing even worse than this.
Yeah, I'm guessing they are. Rick, what do you think? Key West gets battered like that for the next 3, 4, 5, 6 hours?
Probably about 6 hours that we're going to have winds that are in that range, in that 100-mile-an-hour range, and then probably some a little bit longer than that as well. Here you go. There's that video. If you pop back maybe half screen with my map, I can show you exactly those winds. So Key West, this was this morning, 129, 145 in Marathon Key, go towards noon, still 107 in Key West. Now we're up towards 115 gusting in Naples. Go towards tonight, still 110. Key West still 75 at hurricane force gust. Miami still at 62. And that's about what, 8, 9 hours from now.
Never seen anything like this.
Yeah.
That just the whole peninsula.
Yeah.
Certainly not since the population was a fifth of what it is now.
Yeah, you said it, and like Hurricane Charlie, for example, was a way smaller storm. So it was really impactful up around Port Charlotte, but it was a pretty small storm. This is a really big storm. Yeah. It's had a long time to grow into this massive size. A live drive along on WSVN 7 now. And sort of typical palm fronds and stuff down. Well, they just came off that shot. That's Belkis Nuray and Craig Stevens, who will be anchoring from our South Florida station. Our station in Tampa, WTVT in Tampa, also on the air constantly. And we're so thankful to have pictures from their coverage. This is video from Miami. And these are live pictures that are coming into us as a car drives along in the city. Hard to see the street there with all the stuff on the screen, but you get the idea. This will be going on for hours. When we go to bed tonight, Florida will still be getting pounded. And when we wake up tomorrow morning, Florida will still be getting pounded. And by Tuesday, this is a Memphis storm, if the forecasts hold. Stay with us.
Parodontax, the toothpaste that helps prevent bleeding gums. If you spit blood when you brush or floss, you may have gum problems and could be on the journey to much worse. Help stop the journey of gum disease. Try Parodontax toothpaste.
Growing up, we were German. We danced in a German dance group. I wore lederhosen. When I first got on Ancestry, I was really surprised that I wasn't finding all of these Germans in my tree. I decided to have my DNA tested through Ancestry DNA. The big surprise was we're not German at all. 52% of my DNA comes from Scotland and Ireland. So I traded in my lederhosen for a kilt.
Ancestry has many paths to discovering your story. Get started for free at Ancestry.com.
Hi, neighbor. You're selling your action figures. You love those.
Well, my car needs a new window track, and the dealer wants a fortune. Time for desperate measures.
Don't pay crazy dealer prices when RockAuto.com has all the parts your car will ever need at half the price. Here's your window regulator. Pick the brand, click Add Part. It's easy.
With Rock Auto's low prices, I can fix my car and keep my action figures. And you too, Buster.
Rock Auto. All the parts your car will ever need.
All the parts your car will ever need. Rock Auto.
Oh no! Your shower drain is clogged, your bathroom pipe is plugged, and the odor coming from the sink is embarrassing. Stop drain clogs and stinky sinks with SaniSticks, the concentrated drain cleaning and sanitation sticks that you drop in the drain once a month, where they dissolve over time to stop backups, clogs, and nasty odors. Drop in a SaniStick once a month in the kitchen sink, bathroom sinks, utility room sink, bathtub drains, mop sinks, and anywhere you want to keep water flowing without plugged pipes and embarrassing odors. Available at these fine retailers.
Working hard to lower your LDL bad cholesterol? Not making enough progress? You eat well, take the highest dose statin you can, but still aren't getting where you need to be. Now there's Repatha, a different way to reduce LDL and get on the path to dramatically lower numbers. Repatha works differently than your statin to help clear LDL. Repatha plus the highest dose statin drove down LDL an average of 71% more than a statin alone.
Do not take Repatha if you are allergic to it. Repatha may cause allergic reactions. Signs include redness, severe rash or itching, swollen face, or trouble breathing. The most common side effects include runny nose, sore throat, common cold symptoms, flu or flu-like symptoms, back pain, and redness, pain, or bruising at the injection site.
Added to a highest dose statin, Repatha lowered LDL below 70 for up to 90% of people. Ask if Repatha can get you on the path to way lower LDL.
Your brain changes as you get older, but Prevagen helps your brain with an ingredient originally discovered in jellyfish. In clinical trials, Prevagen has been shown to improve short-term memory. Prevagen, the name to remember.
Continuing coverage of Hurricane Irma on Fox News Channel. The cities of Miami and Dania have pulled first responders. They will not respond now to anyone in danger, anyone in peril, because the dangers are too high for rescue workers. The locals know that comes at some point, and that time has come. The National Weather Service has just warned that high-rises in Miami could now be experiencing 100-mile-an-hour gusts. That's in the city of Miami itself, and this storm is a long way away from Miami. The city of Miami warning people use flashlights, not candles. Very worried about fire hazards in this storm. We've just gotten word that 3 people have been killed as a result of Irma's strength. 3 different car crashes, and all of those deaths attributed to Irma. The Naples mayor says citizens have been evacuating since early in the week, and then it finally took the storm seriously. Their town is like a ghost town, says the mayor there. And we're getting a lot of video in from Key West. A surprising amount has been coming in, but nothing that shows us any damage or severe flooding, though we know it's there. Key West on what they call the dry side of the storm, but there is really no dry to all of this. The Middle Keys and up to Key Largo getting some of the worst of it, and we'll go live there in just a minute. Miami, the city of Miami is under a tornado watch until 2 o'clock this afternoon. It's 8:48, a tornado watch for many, many hours to come. Our Brian Yenes is in along Miami Beach. Brian, how's it looking out there?
Hey, Chef, we're in downtown Miami along Biscayne Boulevard. For the last 3 hours, we've been getting these gusts of plus 50 miles an hour. It's been like this. We've been out here since 11 o'clock. Take a look. You see the water right there. That's flooding that's been there all night. It's only gotten worse, actually extending to Biscayne Boulevard over to the south. And if you see the top of the Metro Mover, that's the Metro Mover in downtown Miami that moves people around the area here. The roof there, you can see it just coming off a little bit there with the gusts. It's been getting worse and worse over the last 2 hours. We've also seen plastic parts of the Metro rail come down. And now we're going to look up there to that ride right there. See that window, that door open? That's exactly what the National Weather Service was just warning about with these high-rise buildings, about how the winds up there, as you keep getting higher, obviously get higher as well, to 100 miles an hour. And unfortunately, it looks like that door, definitely that window, has completely come unhinged. And that just allows the elements, unfortunately, it looks like into that building, and it's only gotten worse. Has completely take a look over here, unhinged, and that just allows the elements into that building, and it's only gotten worse. And if you take a look over here, 500 feet. This is the guy's front. The guy's right is the Biscayne Bay. We've seen some wind storm surge go over the wall. Storm surge go over the wall. Here, from what we can understand of the flooding, has been water that's just been blown in. Water that's just been blown in, and obviously the rain. Our friends over here at WSBN, and our friends over here at WSBN, they've been covering the storm 24/7 here, all over the place. And again, we've been seeing different types of debris, mostly from the see over here, guys. Also take a look at over here, guys. That's a stop sign that we saw. That's a stop sign that we saw actually completely snap. We were seeing it completely snap. And we were slowly but surely just going back. And we were out here and it was like 20, 30 miles an hour about 3 o'clock in the morning, and it just 4 o'clock got a little worse, and the gusts would last a little longer as the swallows came in. And then all of a sudden, the dust just continued, and it's been like this now since 6 a.m., Shep.
Thanks very much. Live there in downtown Miami, right across from Bayfront Park, our own Brian Yennis. If you were to go to Key Largo, Florida, that's the northernmost key. Go down a couple. Actually, we lost that report. Let's listen into WSVN, where they were talking with people in the upper Keys, getting a live report from some residents there. Let's listen.
Another reason why they say when it's time to get out, get on out, because you might end up stuck.
But it's also so great that there's a few people that did stay on the island, and they all know who they are, and they've been in contact, and that's going to be so helpful when all this is said and done, that they can all help each other out. So that's good to know.
The importance of community. We certainly saw that a lot after Hurricane Andrew, how we lean on each other as neighbors.
Craig Stevens and Belkis Neray on the news station in South Florida, WSVN 7, and a live look along there. Senator Marco Rubio of Florida is live from Miami, his home, on the phone with us. Senator, how they faring down there?
You know, it's bad. It's nasty here. Steph, I mean, in your time here in Miami at SCN, you remember, well, you were here. You weren't here for Andrew, but were you here in '92?
I was over in Fort Myers for Andrew, but
you're in Fort Myers for Andrew, and you were down. Yeah, but and we're not even getting the direct hit. So if it's nasty here, I want people to, if you're in Sarasota, if you're in Tampa, if you're in, any of those cities, Fort Myers, Naples, anything along the west coast of Florida, southwest coast of Florida, if we're getting it bad, it's going to be really bad. People need to start thinking that way, and at this point, hopefully, have finalized their prep. We're getting wind, gusts, sounds like up to hurricane, strong tropical storm, a lot of rain, worried about the storm surge. But all in all, despite how nasty it is here, we're fortunate compared to what's headed in what really is the worst case scenario in southwest Florida.
It really is, and this is going to be a Florida storm for at least the next 24 hours. Senator, when it's all over, there's going to be an enormous amount of recovery that's necessary, and it's going to require many, many billions of dollars. On the heels of what happened to our friends in Texas, how in the world is the federal government going to come together?
Well, I think it's one of those times you just are grateful that you live in the richest, most powerful country in the world, because we have the resources to help our fellow Americans, and to do it quickly in a way that's responsible. It'll be a lot of emergency funding, and we can't calculate what that is. A direct hit on Tampa Bay from a Category 3 storm coming from the south or the east or the west is one of the worst case scenarios you can imagine in terms of storm surge and life. Not just the property damage, but threat to life. And the other concern we have, of course, is that a lot of the support material is supposed to come here, FEMA, the trucks to restore utilities. They're all up in Georgia, Alabama, potentially south of North Carolina. They're kind of in the path of the storm, so they can't even start moving until this thing goes through. So there's a lot to be concerned about, but the most important thing is that we can save lives and keep people out of areas where they're going to need to be rescued after a storm. That, I think, is going to make it easier, not easy, but easier to kind of get the restoration work going.
I know some people who evacuated from the Fort Lauderdale, Hollywood area up to Fort Walton Beach in Okaloosa County in the Panhandle, and now it looks like this, who knows, a slight jog 20 miles to the west, and this is their storm.
Yeah, Chef, so this is one of those things you got to think about. We've never seen this sort of thing before, where you have all these people kind of leaving an area thinking they're fleeing from the storm, and then they wind up kind of moving to a part of the state that's in the eye of the storm. So now you think about it, you're not just far from home. You're also trapped in a community, or that's not your home, maybe in a hotel or the like. At this point, one of my warnings was, this is no time to try to dodge the storm. And I have a friend in Northeast Florida, so maybe it's the time to drive down. You're going to drive down I-95 in a tropical storm. It's very dangerous at this point. So at this point, I hope these people are in a place that is safe. But I mean safe from wind, but also safe from water. I had a very close friend yesterday in an evacuation zone in Tampa that didn't want to leave. He lives on the second or third floor, and I'm like, well, first of all, what are you going to do? You can't get out. You're going to be stuck there for days, and people aren't going to be able to come to you. So hopefully people have heeded those warnings, and we'll see. But it is concerning. You've got, I don't know how many people, but a lot of people, tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands, who have evacuated to another part of the state and now find themselves kind of being targeted by the storm. So that poses an additional challenge to traffic and the like once the thing passes.
Senator, I know we'll all be together afterwards and during, and can't thank you enough. Appreciate the time.
Thank you. Thanks for bringing me on.
Senator Marco Rubio live with us from his home down in South Florida. Look at the live pictures coming in on WSVN 7. These are pictures from downtown Miami. Think of this, the storm is still has maximum sustained winds 130 miles per hour. That's a Category 4 storm headed to the west-northwest at 6 miles an hour. So it will batter the western coast of Florida all day long. Look at live WTVT in Tampa. This is a live look along Clearwater Beach. Their reporter is there. The storm is many, many hours away from them, but that could be a target. Let's listen.
Thank you to all the callers. One of the most popular beaches here in Pinellas County is just not a soul in sight. I know we were on Indian Rocks Beach a little bit earlier. We did see a couple of people out there picking up seashells, but nothing of that nature out here. We're near Pier 60 out here on Clearwater Beach. Not a soul to be seen except for, like I said, one guy who says he's riding it out and a couple who says they're on their way to safety outside of those evacuation zones. Only here in Pinellas County, evacuation zones A and B, those are mandatory.
So that's Pinellas County, Florida, which is St. Petersburg, Clearwater, Dunedin, Tarpon Springs, that whole area just to the west of Tampa. Eventually, that will get the brunt of this storm as well. Our live coverage continues. Top of the hour headlines are next on Fox News Channel.
If you have bad breath and your mouth lacks moisture, you may suffer from dry mouth. Try Biotene, the #1 dentist-recommended dry mouth brand. It's the only leading brand clinically proven to soothe, moisturize, and freshen breath. Try Biotene.
My dad's grandma. Aunt Stacy!
What are the reasons you care for your heart? Cunol CoQ10, with 3 times better absorption, has the #1 cardiologist-recommended form of CoQ10 to support heart health. Cunol, the better CoQ10.
Stinky sponge? Don't use it. Nasty rag? Lose it. Introducing the Better Sponge. Most incredible sponge you've ever experienced. Fun and flexible, the Better Sponge cleans delicate glassware with one swipe. Plus, it gets down deep for steins and skinny glasses. The secret is the 3,000 tiny silicone fingers that work to loosen and clean stuck-on grime. Not abrasive, so gentle it never scratches, but strong enough to clean crusty baked-on cheese. Even clean stainless pans like steel wool. Sponges harbor mildew and bacteria that could make you sick. The Better Sponge is free from smelly mildew. To refresh, just pop in the dishwasher. Wipe clean any surface, anywhere without scratching. Stuck-on food slips away in seconds with the Better Sponge. For speedy drying, stick the built-in suction cup to the sink. In this amazing demo, we cleaned these pans with the Better Sponge and an ordinary sponge, then rinse them clean. After soaking in water, the sponge released a ton of dirt, but the Better Sponge stayed spotless. The Better Sponge is also a heat-resistant pot holder. There's a non-slip mighty grip to help you pop that top. Pop the top on any jar. That's not all. Easily wipe away sticky soap scum for sparkling shower doors. The extra long static bristles easily lift pet hair off furniture. Simply rinse to use over and over again. Regular sponges constantly need replacing, and that's costly. But the Better Sponge is made of flexible, durable silicone, so it lasts and lasts. Now get the Better Sponge set for just $19.99 and get free shipping. But wait, call right now and you can double your order. Just pay a separate fee. The Better Sponge, the last sponge you'll ever need. So order yours today.
To get your Better Sponge, call 1-800-786-1995 or go to trybettersponge.com. This offer's not available in stores, so call 1-800-786-1995. That's 1-800-786-1995 or order online at trybettersponge.com.
How do we say that this fall our guests can earn a free night when they book at choicehotels.com and stay with us just 2 times?
Fall time, bada book, bada boom.
Pumpkin spice cookie.
I'm good.
Book now at choicehotels.com.
Marie Callender knows that a homemade turkey dinner can make anyone slow down and pull up the seat to the table. That's why she takes the time to season her turkey to perfection and make stuffing from scratch, so that you can spend time on what really matters. Marie Callender's. It's time to savor.
I had to beat it for a moment.
It's 9 a.m. in South Florida. This is Fox News Channel's continuing coverage of Hurricane Irma. Right now, maximum sustained winds of the storm are at 130 miles an hour. It's just northeast of Key West, the eye of that storm. The eye, which at one point was as far across as 45 miles, has shrunk to about half that. But the winds surrounding that eye, 130 miles an hour, it's made landfall in the Keys, just north and east of Key West, and now it's expected to eventually make landfall somewhere in the southwest Florida area or in the Tampa Bay area. A slight shift to the left or right would not be unusual, almost impossible to predict. But the thinking is this storm keeps moving at about this same speed, 6, 7, 8 miles an hour, and continues to lash that southern coast. This down here is mostly Everglades National Park. So that'll take a lot of this, and then you get up to Marco Island and Naples, up to Bonita Springs, Fort Myers, Cape Coral, north of there in Port Charlotte and Punta Gorda, all the way up into the Hillsborough County area and the Tampa Bay area as well.
The stream from here on out belongs to me because it's a new one.
All day long. This entire southern tip of Florida is under a tornado watch. We're now told that more than 850,000 people officially in the Florida Keys, plus Miami-Dade, Broward, and the Palm Beaches are without power. 3 storm-related deaths have been reported. All of those
of you who watched it live and what the millions of other people
the city
will
of
witness
Naples, Florida,
when
said
they
to be
see this.
like a ghost town. And a short time ago, we got a report out of one of the upper Keys, Island I believe it was,
but
where a
always the
local
service
resident
goes out.
talking to our local
Always
station
the
down
power
there
goes
said
out.
it looked like a tsunami had
Why
come
hasn't this
as
one?
the water
Why
came
do I
rushing
still have
up,
power?
boats sitting up on their keels, and just a scene of widespread destruction in the upper Keys.
Well,
Remember,
I'll tell
it
you
came
why.
ashore
Florida Keys Electric, they take pride in flying their helicopters around the power lines, keeping them up to date, keeping the fittings and the bolts and everything right. So that in events like this, the things that need power
Rick Reichmuth
keep
is our
the
chief
power.
meteorologist. He's live in the Fox Extreme Weather Center with what we're seeing in the way of
I am walking around. I'm checking out my corner. This is my corner. There was a fence there. Part of the awning ripped off. Somehow it's still there.
The shape of the ocean floor. And if you
The trees are there. Thank goodness. The red car had a stop sign that slowly, over time, leaned against it, and then finally smacked it, and then finally fell off of it. For those of you who caught the feed from yesterday,
this is a lot of wave energy that is all going to continue to get piled up
the winds are still a bit
towards
strong,
Biscayne Bay, towards Miami,
but it was
and
nothing
across
like
parts of the
witnessed
eastern
before.
shore. That's why we're still so concerned about the east shore with storm
Thank you guys
surge,
so much.
and the west shore with storm surge. It's not just kind of a one side from this, but you're right, moving over the island.
We got some damaged
34-foot waves
down
in the
over
lower
here,
Keys.
little tiny
Out to the sea. That's what it's got.
building has
Yeah,
spared the
absolutely. So you got the storm
sign
surge and the waves on
underneath
top of that. And you said it right here. You know, that it's that fabled thing of being in the eye of a hurricane. I've never done it, never experienced it. These guys right here in Cujo Key.
All of you people in the path of this storm,
pretty spectacular
get
thing
out.
after the fright you had right there.
Just because I made it does not mean you will make it.
That's an incredible map.
I still may not have made it.
Right there in the middle of it.
There is no
but
way
yeah,
to know
headed
for
right
sure.
up here, all across the eastern seaboard, not out of the question that it cuts a little farther towards the west. Eventually, would make
Who will
landfall
survive
somewhere
and who hasn't?
around Appalachia, Cola, or just a couple points east, or maybe it goes somewhere onshore here. We really can't tell you. Storm surge is going to be a really localized thing that will pull offshore in some areas, and eventually on the back side of it pull on in as the wind's direction shift, because we have the storm moving parallel to the coast. A little bit different than some of these hurricanes you see that move directly onshore and cause that storm surge on that right front body. So it's going to be a little bit of a different thing here. In some of these areas, our storm surge modeling shows the storm surge going miles inland because the coast is just so flat. Think about it. If you've got a 15-foot storm surge, but I live at 14 feet above sea level,
I am in
then maybe I have a foot. But
at the Marlin gas station.
I've got 4 feet. So, you know, all of those things are really
have
localized
fierce winds.
based off of kind of exactly where your house is or your neighborhood is. And that's going to be the big differences
Heavy
here.
rain.
Such a spectacular storm
Debris.
to track
Not that
all this
often the
time.
debris, but we have had debris.
Meteorologically speaking,
We have lost our
frightening
awning.
because of all the damage.
We have lost the stop sign.
Do you have that Cujo Key frame
Apparently,
again?
Irma
Where the
doesn't
eye is
obey
going
stop
ashore?
sign.
I asked because
We lost our
the
sign
eye
to
of
the
the
gas
storm is
station.
now to the west of Marathon.
We still have
And
power. We
this
do
whole
not have
center here,
backup
Rick,
generators. We are
it's
on
quiet
the
on that
grid.
key right now for a few minutes.
Quiet, completely quiet. I mean, if there's anybody there, and there probably are a few people there, they can walk out, look up at the sky, probably see blue sky,
I had seen that.
have kind of no wind.
I was
at
disappointed
all
that it didn't make
right
it.
now. after they've just
But
gone
with
through
any luck, it'll
130
be
mile
over
an hour
there
wind gusts. So
in the
that's
woods
what
somewhere.
they've got going on right here. By the way, these islands don't do anything to disrupt that eye at all.
No.
That will happen once it makes landfall towards the north. There's a little shear eventually later today, Shep. It's also going to start breaking the storm apart a little bit, which will be good news. But in the short term, that's not the case. The water's still warm. Some of our models are indicating maybe a little more strengthening.
To my
still
friend
as it
that
pulls
shared
up
this
towards
on
the north.
Reddit,
There you
I
go.
appreciate
This is such an amazing picture when you see that just
My
exactly
reward
where
is your
that
reward.
storm is right now.
Just to
Thank
the
you so
right of
much.
Cujo Key would be Big Pine Key, and Big Pine Key has a really strong eye wall on it all the way up to Marathon. You wonder how that overseas highway is going to hold up through there, Rick.
It's scary. It hasn't gone through anything like this. Maybe, certainly not in a very long time. Hurricane Donna was kind of a similar thing, but it didn't have the history of this storm. This storm was the longest, strongest storm anywhere on the planet in our, at least in satellite eras, 60s. When you think about that, and the West Pacific, places like the Philippines, Taiwan, they've got the crazy, really strong hurricanes. They call them typhoons, but it's the exact same thing. But this one is just like that. 185 miles lasting that long. That means there's a lot of water that's pushed in with that. It's not, you have a hurricane that pops up to be a hurricane and goes back down. It doesn't have a chance to pile up that much water. This one has been piling up water for the better part of the week.
Rick Reichmuth in the Extreme Weather Center. Back to him as news warrants. Let's get right to Key Largo. Adam Housley out in it in Key Largo. Man, Adam, how goes?
Yes, Deborah, you talked about the interstate highway just now with Rick. We checked on that last night, and it doesn't keep real well. About midnight, the water in within a block of the interstate highway. It was about 3 feet deep on the ocean side, but here on the bay side, the water hasn't come up. It's all been about wind and rain. I'm going to step away and give you an idea. Look at these trees right here. We're getting gusts over 100 miles an hour here, Shepard, and we're a good distance from that eye wall. So the way we're told is we're going to be about 45 miles from the eye wall, to maybe 60 miles from the eye wall as it gets up towards the mainland. As you can tell right now, the wind, the rain, the water is just blowing across these keys. Nothing's stopping it. It's snapping trees in half. We've seen large branches just blow by without any issue whatsoever, almost like a piece of grass blowing in the wind. I see nobody out. This is the first hurricane in all the years we've been covering it, but I haven't seen anybody out and about walking. I mean, here at our secure location, people might get out and take a peek for a second or two, but for the most part, they're all staying inside and latched down. But when we had a chance to talk with the sheriff here in Monroe County yesterday, the sergeant in charge of this area, he was telling us that he was very pleased about how many people took the warning and got out. They hope nobody's trying to ride this thing out in a wooden house or a mobile home or even at sea level. If they did stay, they hope they found a location like this. You can see by looking at how I'm standing here, partially blocked to be in a secure location, and it's still just coming down and blowing through here with really nothing at all stopping it. This storm has some serious rage, Shepard. It's been going on here for nearly 24 hours. The winds really started picking up yesterday at 10 o'clock in the morning. We lost power by 10:30, and it has been nonstop ever since, Shepard.
Man, I've been watching our local station down there talking about the wind gusts well over 100 miles an hour, and that should continue for many hours.
Absolutely, and what makes it even worse is the size of this hurricane. The fact that the winds have been coming. I mean, yesterday at like 2 or 3 o'clock, it was sustained at 20 to 30, and then it gradually built up, of course, through the night. And when you have buildings and awnings and people and cars and large trees that have been taking that kind of stress for that length of time, and now you bring these 100-mile-an-hour plus winds on top of it, it's going to be brutal here, Shepard. I mean, we saw a lot of damage yesterday, well before anything like this came down.
Adam Housley live with us. You guys got a plan? I mean, if things go south, what do you do?
I'll be right back.
We follow the plan that you guys taught us when we all started in this business, and that is to find something that's going to Cat 5 rated, Category 5 hurricane rated, meaning it can withstand winds of 180 miles an hour. We found a phenomenal location, all masonite blocks, only windows on one side, with built-in storm shutters that are metal that I actually latched mine down myself. So we're safe and secure. The last thing we want to do is become part of the storm. But when it gets too bad, we're going to go inside, shut our doors, and hunker down and ride this thing out, Shepard.
Adam Housley, thank you for the pictures. Thank you to your crew as well. 8 a.m., the 9 a.m. update, which is just in a few minutes ago from the National Hurricane Center. For wind speeds maximum 330 miles an hour. The central pressure is at 929 millibars, which is up a little bit. which is good news on some level. And the forward progress of this storm now 8 miles an hour. It's moving to the north-northwest at 8 miles an hour. That's the latest that we have from the National Hurricane Center. I want to show you where this eye is. This is South Florida. The storm obviously covers this entire region. But the eye itself, here's Miami, here's Naples, here's the Florida Keys. This is Key West, Cujo Key, and then Big Pine Key. Middle Torch Key there as well. I want to show you exactly where this eye is. This is Cujo Key up to Big Pine Key. So somewhere in this area, this is where the eye of the storm is right about now. So the outer bands of this storm, the worst of it all is always in this area. Big Pine Key has already gotten that. And then you go up toward Marathon, Duck Key, and all the way up to Isla Mirada, Plantation, and far up to Key Largo. All of this is being battered. Now, just above it, the land mass at the bottom of the state is the Everglades National Park. Big Cypress Preserve is down in that area as well. And the next thing you get to is Everglades City. Switch over to the other map, and you'll see this is Highway 41, Alligator Alley, coming across. 75 is Alligator Alley. Highway 41 coming from Miami's through Everglades City, East City they call it, up into Marco Island and the Naples area. All of this, the Rookery Bay National Estuary Research Center here, Dismal Key, Marco Island, Naples, North Naples, Bonita Springs, up into Fort Myers and Cape Coral. All of that going to be pounded for many hours to come. The Fox Business Network's Jeff Flock is just up the coast from here. You go just north into Charlotte County, the town of Punta Gorda, which is, I don't know, 20, 25 miles north of Fort Myers. How's it there so far?
Yeah, well, just starting here, and of course, you know, in this town, and by the way, that's 41. That's the last route out to 75. Punta Gorda knows hurricanes and knows, you know, nobody should be surprised by this hurricane, but Punta Gorda was surprised by Charlie back in 2004 when it was supposed to go to Tampa. I think Bob's up on top of the parking garage up there and giving you a good picture. We're surrounded by water here, so, you know, you got to really worry about storm surge out here. The other thing is, you know, when you've been through Charlie, Bob, maybe if he spins around up from where he is, he's in a parking garage, the only public parking garage in Punta Gorda, and it is packed. Everybody has put their car in there. You can't get in the parking garage, and then has gotten out of town, a lot of people, most everybody. Because once you've been through a Cat 4, which is what they were through in 2004, it's pretty nasty, and you think about staying again, thinking no.
Yeah. Hurricane Center says that it will get progressively worse there for the next 12 solid hours.
Well, we're going to try to stay out ahead of it. I'm going to try to jump in the car once it gets funky, and we're going to go up 75 and just chase it up the way there. Jeff
Flock from the Fox Business Network with a great look. Continuing coverage coming. Jeff Flock is there for us, and we have correspondents all up and down the coast and affiliated stations all the way. This is Miami area. The worst of it all right now, the middle Keys, middle to lower Keys, we do not know what it's like outside. We don't know the status of the overseas highway. We don't know what's happened to all the businesses that are along there. It is a marine community. It relies on fishing and tourism, and there won't be a lot of either of those for a long time to come. It's an area of the country that will need all of our help very soon and for a very long time.
This is a story about mail and packages, and it's also a story about people. And while we make more e-commerce deliveries to homes than anyone else in the country, we never forget that your business is our business. The United States Postal Service. Priority, you.
As a Hall of Fame coach, I know it takes the right combination of ingredients to win championships. Synodrin, powered by Immunodrin, is the most complete joint health supplement on the market today, combining 6 leading ingredients to make the best formula possible. Whether you're a weekend warrior or on your feet all day, why settle for less? Have the best with Synodrin Complete Joint Health. Results guaranteed.
Buy one, get one free this week only at Walgreens.
Wayfair? We've got some really great sales.
I can't believe I just got this deal on a bestseller. Oh, yeah.
Usually, that means it's going to be really expensive. Well,
Not at Wayfair.
I just saved so much on this bedding, I feel like I'm sleeping on $1 million.
It makes me want to bring it down now. I can't explain it.
It's hard to explain how it feels getting 70% off, especially 70% off bestsellers. So find what you need at an amazing price at Wayfair.com.
So tell us your big idea for getting the whole country booking on choicehotels.com.
4 words. Bada book, bada boom. Let it sink in.
Shouldn't we say we have the lowest price?
Nope. Bada book, bada boom.
Have you ever stayed with Choice Hotels, like at a Comfort Inn?
Yep. Free waffles. Can't go wrong.
I like it.
Promote that guy.
Get the lowest price on our rooms, guaranteed. When you book direct at choicehotels.com. Book now.
To most people, I look like most people. But on the inside, I feel chronic, widespread pain. Fibromyalgia may be invisible to others, but my pain is real.
Fibromyalgia is thought to be caused by overactive nerves. Lyrica is believed to calm these nerves.
I'm glad my doctor prescribed Lyrica.
For some, Lyrica delivers effective relief for moderate to even severe fibromyalgia pain and improves function. Lyrica may cause serious allergic reactions, suicidal thoughts, or actions. Tell your doctor right away if you have these, new or worse depression, unusual changes in mood or behavior, swelling, trouble breathing, rash, hives, blisters, muscle pain with fever, tired feeling, or blurry vision. Common side effects: dizziness, sleepiness, weight gain, swelling of hands, legs, and feet. Don't drink alcohol while taking Lyrica. Don't drive or use machinery until you know how Lyrica affects you. Those who've had a drug or alcohol...
Alan from Orlando? Yeah.
With less pain, I can do more with my hand.
Talk to your doctor today.
Yeah, white to clean, I'm sure. And then just to the west of that was white. Clean off the map, which is what? Big Pine. Big Pine. The bridges are gone. I bet they are. I don't know if they are or not, but I bet they are. It's not so bad outside no more. They are on the counter. Keys are on the counter to go Pete. Yeah, I know the flag. The wind is still whipping.
And he says,
this is not pre-recorded. The time is 9:18 a.m. Florida time.
That one man died in that shelter.
For what?
As it turns out, of natural causes.
You needed to rest. I don't need a rest. Oh, we didn't see him make landfall. We just seen 120 plus mile an hour winds right in front of our basements. It was like, there, you couldn't see nothing. That's what it was like. Yeah, I tasted salt water too, but I do not see any water in coaching on the old highway. The storm surge. I should have been there. Oh yeah, it's all gone. Everything is gone. Oh, thank you guys for all your love, all your support, everything you sent, the good, the bad, the conspiracy, the non-conspiracy, all of it helps. It all helps when it's all said and done with. Don't forget Central Florida.
Last night was empty.
Better watch it. All right, go. It's windy in here! Hey, you can turn the fan off now! Alright, never mind. Never mind. Just kidding. Just kidding. It's really windy in Alvarado. There's no conspiracy here. It is really windy, and it is raining. And I have power still. I don't know how. I'm not going to question it anymore. I'm just glad that it's on. It looks like they have power over there too. So, just a little while ago, we witnessed, I believe, what would be the strongest winds of this storm. But I could be wrong. But I'm pretty sure I am right. Look, this is the highest ground available, the second story. We cannot go any higher than that. Once you reach 10 meters, the wind changes. It becomes a different beast altogether.
For a very long time, more than 40 dead, $25 billion in damage.
Yes, it is still very warm. It's actually hot outside. Well, it's breezy, but the air temperature when the wind is blowing is hot. Yes. Anna's trying to put the dance party on again. The dog is inside. It is safe. My dog is safe. The other dog is safe. Everybody in this building is safe. My car is safe. My truck is safe. My fiance is safe. The dog is safe. Yes, I know. Shelter in place. I caught that garbage can over there on that pole on the bottom. It blew from over here into the air and landed on that yellow pole. Yeah, don't get too soaked. I gotta come in. I need a resupply. Resupply, key supply.
In the path of these strong gusty winds, Miami Beach, Homestead, Coral Gables, Key Biscayne, South Miami, Homestead Speedway, Black Point Marina, Homestead General.
Like I said, I don't know when this stream is going to die,
Turkey Point,
but when it does
Virginia
die,
Key, Kendall,
if everybody
Doral,
votes to go to
Pinecrest, Miami Springs, Sweetwater, Florida City, West Miami, and West Chester.
I don't know how to do the green
This is
zone.
definitely a strong wind gust feeder band coming through, and we're going to take the opportunity right now to go to the National Hurricane Center. Dr. Michael Brennan, a specialist there. Michael, there's this big feeder band now that's starting to move across the area with wind speeds of 80 to 100 miles per hour. This is going to stick around for a while.
Yeah, this is a really dangerous situation that's now developing here across the Miami metropolitan area. We were sort of eyeing this feeder band earlier, and we can see in the radar there's very strong winds aloft in it, and those are going to mix down to the surface, and we could see widespread wind gusts in that 80 to 100 mile per hour range. That could cause a lot of power outage, structural damage at those wind speeds, trees to fall down. So everybody's going to want to stay safe in their safe location throughout the day today and well into the evening before the winds are going to calm down. The other thing that this band is going to do is going to push even more storm surge up along the southeast coast. The tide station at Virginia Key is already reporting about storm surge.
The reason you're not hearing audio is because I'm talking to emergency personnel. Not for evacuation, not for rescue, just making sure that they know we still have power.
Everybody's going to want to stay safe. Now, across Miami-Dade and Broward counties, the Keys, I guess your statement that came out said that the hurricane had made landfall by Cudjoe.
Yes.
Is that correct? 106 miles per hour?
Yeah, Cudjoe Key at 9:10 a.m. here in the lower Keys, and there was a report at the Key Deer Wildlife Refuge on Big Pine Key of a wind gust of 106 miles per hour around 8:30 or 8:40 this morning. That's one of the higher wind gusts we've seen. And the eye has actually become a little better, just more distinct looking on the Key West radar now. So that northern eye wall is now wobbling off to the north of the Keys, and there's a little bit of an eastern eye wall that's starting to touch some of the middle Keys now. So it's still going to be a rough few hours in the Keys. That storm surge, that strong southerly flow pushing water up into the Keys, and now the northerly flow on the backside pushing water into places like Key West. So a very, very dangerous few hours unfolding for many people here in South Florida.
And we want to urge anyone who's
there you go.
down
That's
there
the latest from South Florida. Again, that Big Pine Key, just after 9 o'clock this morning Eastern time. I want to go to the phones now. Roman Gestesi is with us. He's the county administrator in Monroe County, which is the Florida Keys, and riding out the storm there. Roman, how are you, and what are you seeing?
We're doing fine. We're in the very upper part of the Keys and the northern part of Key Largo. We're in a safe, old and employee housing building, huge, very strong building. So we're doing fine. And we also heard from our colleagues in Key West and Marathon.
What have you heard from your colleagues down there where the storm is hitting in earnest?
We were on the phone. We have a conference call every couple hours with Key West about 20 minutes ago, or so ago, and they were doing fine. Their spirits were up. They were getting beat up pretty bad, but they were doing fine. They were, you know, like I said, we were able to talk to them, so it was good news.
Lot of concern about Big Pine and the Middle Keys there. Do you have an idea for how many conchs stayed behind?
We don't. There's all kinds of thoughts, but I can tell you that I was driving up and down the Keys for the last couple of days and didn't see many people, especially after, I don't even know what night it dated. It's 2 nights ago when it looked like it was fading south. There was a steady flow of people, last minute folks leaving, so that's good news. So it's hard to estimate, but there were a lot of people that left.
What about power? My understanding is about 3/4 of the Keys are without power now.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if it's even that. We're in the upper area, and we don't have any power. So from here south, I doubt anybody has any power. So I'd be surprised if anybody has any power in the Keys, but you never know.
Official landfall has been made in Cudjoe Key. Tell us about that small key.
It's a beautiful area in Cudjoe Key. Very nice, beautiful homes on canals. There's all kinds of folks that live there. I guess the good news, I'm sure if they're listening, they're not going to want to hear this, but the good news is that it's not as populated as some of the other areas. You know, for example, down in Key West, we have 25,000 people living. In Marathon, about 10,000. In that area, it's probably just a couple thousand spread out over a wide area. So, if anything, is a silver lining is that it's an area that doesn't have a highly populated, you know, folks there.
Middle Torch Key, Big Pine, that's all down there. No Name Key is another. My understanding was these keys, except for heavy conchs with boats around that they don't want to leave, are mostly evacuated.
I think so. I think those folks evacuated. Again, when I was driving by, I didn't see much activity there.